Alright, guys. So, we have a series to watch today in between. Now, I am just going to do this series, frankly, because I want to give everybody a chance who has not seen the first two episodes of Warhammers that I watched to catch up on that. Next week, I'll be starting on the Warhams, and we'll be starting with episode 3, and it's going to be fun times. So, who's all here? We got Carlos here, Defies the Slacker, Ronnie, Karn the Chad, and Captain Tybold. Mr. Reich, I am thoroughly warm today. It is a warm day in my house. The puppies are running around and doing a whole bunch of stuff. They're getting so big, guys. They're getting so big. And my feelings are going to be hurt when we wind up sending them to their homes. I'm just going to be sad. Hey, Karn, how's it going, bud? So, today we'll be checking out Warboss Gitzlaire in Commorragh. Tomorrow is going to be the Old Gods Are Dead series from Vox in the Void. I've been trying to set that up for the past couple of weeks, and there we go. Hobbit says, Hobbit's here. He's doing better than last night. But I have to say that quietly, at least Randy hear me talking shit. What? Okay, so my schedule's changing next week. I'm not going to be able to. Do 2 weekend streams at the same time again. As of next week, my Sunday is going to be occupied, which is not ideal, but at the same time, there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm going to switch the stream to Saturday at a more different time, and I might be doing something different on the Friday. Like, I might set up a stream for Friday and do something different on that stream. Thank you, Defies. Defies says, Commissar, I'm going to get a Pugasaur image made for you. Why? Because I think it'll be hilarious to watch you laugh/cringe. The Pugasaur would be a welcome addition to the cast and crew. I am wearing my Orky Decision Thingy shirt because of the nature of what we're watching today. I haven't been putting out a lot of, reaction content. I haven't been putting out a lot of my own content, mainly because of how different everything is and how much, time constraints are going on for me. But that's going to change this next week, so everything will be sorted. My times will be stable again, and that's just something that's just needed for me. I need to have stable time in order to sit there and be able to do practically anything. So, without anything else being said, we're going to kick right off into this. And I've heard a lot of good things about this series, so we're just going to start off with Episode 1, Warboss Gitzlaire and the Witch, and I'm just going to let it play out flat out on everything. And we're just going to sit back and enjoy, because Noman is one of those creators that is, he is notoriously underrated. He is notoriously underrated when it comes to stuff. He has the best orc voice I've ever heard, flat out, and it is something that I think is just almost criminal when it comes down to it. So, let's get started. Here we go. Let's see what happens when Warboss Gitzlaire goes to Commorragh.
Braziel strode slowly across the arena floor, her every footfall a thing of grace. The gathered Drukhari cheered the witch as she prepared to slowly and painfully dismember the monster that was set before her. The warboss was roaring and struggling against his chains. The chains were completely for show. If the filthy orc had only been held in place by mere metal rings, he would have snapped them in a blink of an eye. Modified stasis technology reinforcing the chains helped create the dramatic illusion. The moment Braziel gave the signal, the field would be dropped, and the match would truly begin. The witch paced around the warboss, who was shouting every manner of obscenity at her in his extremely crude and primitive tongue. Braziel swung her agonizer above her head dramatically as powerful energies hissed and crackled through the weapon. It might have been a bit extreme to use a weapon that could cut through the hull of a tank, but the unimaginable pain an agonizer could inflict helped mitigate the rather limited pain response orcs usually displayed. These people came for a show, but they also came to be fed. Braziel would have to make the show a good one, showing off her quickness and skill against this lumbering brute. Braziel finished her circuit around the Warboss and gave the signal. The stasis generator cut out, and the brutish orc snapped the chains in suitably dramatic fashion.
Yay!
Braziel laughed as the Warboss predictably and mindlessly charged at her. She could have ended it right then and there.
Slacker, thank you. Slacker says, Randy Random, last night Hobbit had all the Manhunter... Okay, so last night while I was doing the Resident Evil stream, Hobbit was playing RimWorld, Good Times Runs the War Crimes Edition. And Randy Random kept throwing Manhunter packs at him, to the point where Hobbit didn't have a medic with fingers because they'd all been chewed off by squirrels. So let's see. Hobbit had all the Manhunters after him, had a medic go insane and eaten by a dog. Tribal starts are no joke in RimWorld. That is very true. Thank you, Slacker.
But the show must go on.
Show must go on.
The witch dodged and rolled deftly to the side, out of the way of the charging brute who managed to grab nothing but air. The orc spun around, spittle flying from its mouth. The witch stood, placing her weapon hand on her hip and covering her mouth in a feigned yawn. This enraged the orc further, and he turned and charged again, swinging his massive fists, trying to crush the impossibly fast Dark Eldar. Braziel placed her hands behind her back and dodged every swipe effortlessly, moving as little as possible to demonstrate her vastly superior speed and agility. The Warboss raised both hands above his head and tried to smash Braziel into the ground. It was such an awkward, slow attack that the witch felt like she could have simply walked out of the way. Instead, she danced to safety, with an artful pirouette as she twirled the agonizer around herself and bowed before the assembled crowd. Just as the witch was taking in the adulation of her peers in the stands, reveling in their cheers, she saw a green blur in her peripheral vision, moving impossibly fast. The orc's slow, clumsy movements suddenly vanished as the massive Warboss moved faster than any greenskin Braziel had ever seen in her life.
Oh boy.
He spun around with massive, grasping hands, reaching for the Drukhari. Braziel was in the middle of her bow as she suddenly had to try to leap forward out of the orc's reach. She felt her momentum stop abruptly as a large green fist closed around her foot, crushing the bones instantly.
Oh, no. You know what? I sit there sometimes and I hear stories about bad things happening in Comorragh, and then I just realize they're talking about Dark Eldar, and I really don't care. Karn the Chess says, blood for the blood god. Oh, thank you, Karn. Everybody in Karn with an X in chat, please.
No. There was no way. This orc was a ponderous creature with no grace or speed.
Oh no, Eldar arrogance.
Fooled ya, you dancing, prancing, pansy git. Warboss Gitzlaire quickly yanked on the witch's leg and pulled her over his head in a wide arc before smashing her head into the earth of the arena.
Nice.
As a loud crack reverberated through it.
Thank you, Karn. Karn says skulls for the Skull Throne. F to Virus Bomb, Karn. Thank you, Karn.
Silencing the bloodthirsty patrons.
Oh.
As an appalled silence fell over them.
Oh no!
The massive orc unceremoniously tore Braziel's head from her shoulders and held it high above his head to taunt the onlookers as he grinned wildly.
Oh no!
The crowd began to boo as Gitslaya raised his arms in triumph. With one big wind-up, he hurled what was left of Braziel's skull into the stands.
Lovely.
Though it smacked into the shields, protecting the patrons, spattering brain, blood, and bits of skull all over it.
Oh, my sadness.
As the bloody mess stripped down the crumbling shield, Gitslaya held up his massive hand to his ear and reveled in the booze and taunted the crowd with many rude gestures.
Gitslaya's Hulk Hogan!
Gas began to flood into the arena as the orc enjoyed his victory. As the gas threatened to overwhelm Gitslaya's consciousness, the orc began to plan for his escape. And he wondered whatever came of his favorite attack squig, Poodle.
Poodle?
Even the Dark Eldar couldn't imagine what the Warboss would do to them if he found out that Poodle had been harmed.
Be free, green fellows, free!
The stasis field that had been containing the massive orc Warboss was released. In the blink of an eye, Warboss Gitzlaire crushed the strangely content Dark Eldar.
I gotta pause it. Jackson Eagle says the shield only goes down when t-shirts are being shot.
As he and a score of his fellow orcs surged free from their confinement. There wasn't a moment's thought given as to why this happened. Orcs are creatures of action, and this was especially true of Goth Warbosses. With his fists covered in gore and no enemies around, now was the time for Gitslaya to think. Where was Poodle? Where was his favorite attack squig? He hadn't seen the thing since he fell asleep in his boss hut and woke up in this weird place. The Warboss idly wondered why this weird place was all goldy and shiny when it was...
Oh, God. We have... Okay. Oh, my God. I just... This is gonna be great. This is gonna get great relatively fast. This is actually canon for text-to-speech.
Was dark and eerie before. This thought was pushed aside as he led his freed boys through the arena holding pens. Another idle thought entered Gitslaya's head as he smashed the guards to pieces with his bare hands. Most of them were just lying about with big, happy smiles on their faces. But they also looked like they were melting. Pansies were weird. After bashing his way into the armory, Gitslaya found all the old war gear that had been nicked from him and the boys when they first came here.
Guys, if you don't realize, this is, thank you, Car in the chat. Car in the chat asked, where was the blood that was promised? Karn, the blood that was promised is about to be spilled, I do believe. And it's Dark Eldar blood, so you should be happy. Everyone should be happy. If you do not know, this is apparently happening at the same time where the Fjordpurer was sitting there with Vect in text-to-speech, and the Fjordpurer was being very nice and optimistic and sending out those waves of happiness. So, the Dark Eldar are engaged in... well, a war they don't know how to fight with this kind of thing. Thank you, Karn. I love it. I love it. Here we go.
There was plenty of loot, and the boys got to work arming themselves to crump more of these mucking-about pansies. It was then that Gitslaya heard the familiar rasping bark croak of Poodle! Gitslaya rushed to the beast pit to find his attack squig. Poodle was giving one of the Drukhari Beastmasters a good death shake.
Nice.
The sound of snapping tendons and bones was music to Gitslaya's ears as he leapt down into the pit. Poodle snarled and clamped its teeth into the Warboss's meaty arms. Oh, I missed you too, Poodle. Let's get out of this place. Gitslaya grabbed Poodle's chain and began to lead the angry squig to the rest of the boys. When he emerged from the arena complex, Gitslaya found that one of his old truck boys had nicked a pansy transport. The 24 or so
I love it,
orcs
the
piled
pansy
inside
transport.
just as the golden light faded, and the familiar eerie blue light and impenetrable darkness engulfed the city again. Step on it, Crumper! Get us out of here! The truck boy gave his boss a salute, and then hesitated for a moment as he looked over the exotic controls of the blade-like vehicle.
Just press anything,
Giving
it'll
up
work.
trying to make sense of them, he mashed his fist onto the control panel, and the thing lurched forward. He simply continued to press buttons and learn the controls through trial and error.
That's the best way.
The Dark Eldar appeared to have come to their senses, and they began to fire on the escaping orcs. Crumpa lurched the vehicle this way and that, spattering a number of Drukhari, who simply could not anticipate where the mad orc would direct the vehicle. Eventually he got the hang of it, and the orc escapees began tearing down the causeway through the Dark City. So, boss, how are we getting out of here?
Drive faster! The faster you go, the faster we ain't in this gittish place no more.
Right, boss. Crumpa kicked into high gear, and the orcs sped ahead, just as the Death Racer cults began to sense that new prey was fleeing blindly through their hunting grounds. Gitslayer was unconcerned. He
I doubt it.
roughly patted Poodle's gnarled, ugly head, who immediately began trying to remove a few of the Warboss's fingers.
Oh, so cute.
Gitslayer only laughed. Today was a good day.
Today is a good day. Yes, it is a good day. Next episode's coming up. I love it. I love the fact that I can just autoplay this. Drive fast is the best
Is we
advice.
there yet? I'm hungry. I got to use the little orcs room.
What?
Poodle keeps biting me.
Stop bitching.
If you don't shut your yaps, I'm turning this pansy truck right around.
Warboss Gitzlaire and his boys sped through the dark corridors and causeways of the dark city of Commorragh in their stolen Drukhari vehicle. Little did they know that they had entered into the territory of the Spine Shredder Death Racers. Soon,
Why does everything sound so unnecessarily grim when it comes to the Drukhari? Can't they just name themselves something relatively utter depression to listen to? Who's better, Poodles or PogChamp? PogChamp? No. Princess the Squig is the best squig of all time. And if you don't know who Princess the Squig is, you gotta read Brutal Cunning. Oh! Speaking of which, if you have not heard, Humble Bundle is offering a massive audiobook deal on Dark Imperium series and everything like that. There's 21 books, I think, for like $18. Just saying.
Reaver jet bikes began emerging from side alleys and quickly closed the gap with the slower looted prisoner transport.
Is you a truck boy or what, Crumper? Make this thing go faster.
Paint it red.
I's a goth truck boy, boss. He's not a speed freak. Me job is to get the boys in chopping distance faster.
Yes.
Right. If we can't outrun 'em, let's outfight 'em. Bring the ducker, boys.
Oh, God.
Warboss Gitzlaire tore the door off the transport with his claw and hurled it at the pursuing bikers.
Karn in the chat says, thank you, Karn. Grinnisbish. I have no idea what that means. It's time for DACA. Thank you, Card. Squigs have the personality of your average pit bull. No, Jackson. Squigs have the average personality of your average pit bull that's been hopped up on 20 pounds of steroids, followed by a healthy dose of LSD after being tossed into a room full of cocaine with a fan on.
These death racers were used to the most horrific, high-speed, death-defying sport in Comorragh. They easily dodged out of the way. Gitslaya began firing with his big shooter as the rest of his boys climbed atop the vehicle or began firing out of the ports.
Green is best,
The
never mind.
spine shredders deftly weaved in and out of orc fire and responded with volleys of splinter rifle fire of their own. This raked over the stolen transport, and Rug Duck caught a score of supersonic crystals to the face as he stood atop the vehicle.
Ow.
He tumbled off the top, and his body was sliced apart by the monomolecular blades that adorned the jet bikes. The Death Racers were as reckless and daring as the orcs as they began to sideswipe the stolen vessel with their bike blades.
I would never want to have myself compared to an orc for any reason underneath the sun. I would never want to have myself compared to a Dark Eldar for any reason under the sun. At all. Ever. Thank you, Slacker. Slacker says, can we really call this orc mad? Everything he's done is pretty tame by orc standards.
Terry.
Yeah, it really is. He's just making his escape right now. If it wasn't for using that witch as a pinata, I think that he'd be he's just acting very typical. I'm waiting to see the ridiculousness start.
Bring a deep
Thank you, Slacker.
into it. Not to be outdone in recklessness, Gob Smasher and Leg Ripper leapt from the transport to one of the attacking jet bikes. Gob Smasher made the jump, and Leg Ripper did not, as he bounced once on the causeway before flying off the edge of the raised road and falling into the blackness of Commorragh below. Gob Smasher quickly clubbed the spine shredder in the head, pulping his skull, before unceremoniously kicking the body off the bike.
Nice.
It was at this point that Gob Smasher realized that he had absolutely no idea how to pilot the bike, and he spun wildly out of control as he randomly grabbed at levers and stepped on pedals. He smashed into one of the other Death Racers, and the two bikes and their drivers also plunged off the side of the causeway with bellows and shrieks.
F in chat for those chads. They were definite chads of orcdom. Our Nukes, thank you, bud. He says he knows that Comorragh has the most densely populated place in 40k after all the anti-negative energy. Do you think that's still true? Probably. But, they're definitely going to have trauma. That one time in their life they felt truly happy when somebody wasn't suffering underneath them. That's just, no. It's a whole lot of nope in a 10-pound bag anytime you're talking about the Drukhari in any way, shape, or form at all. Zach said, good morning. After yesterday I turned 20 and now I feel old. Are you fucking with me? Thank you, Ardukes.
Unbeknownst to the orcs and the Death Racers, their skirmish was being observed by a cluster of figures bearing long splinter rifles.
Oh, here we go.
The spine shredders had cost Arcanol a great deal when they defeated Del Alistar of the Razorbeaks. And Arcanol was nothing if not petty and vengeful. At his command, the snipers took careful aim, waiting for the racers to turn onto the straightaway.
Wacky racers!
Warboss Gitzlaire grabbed one of the passing jet bikes with his claw and attempted to heft the thing into the air. Unfortunately, this extra weight caused the grav transport to dip and lean heavily to that side.
What?
The Death Racer was flung from his bike and his body broke as he tumbled down the causeway.
Oof.
Gitslayer quickly released the bike into the blackness below, but not before the prisoner barge had drifted nearly to the edge of the track. Warboss Gitzlaire got a good look at the featureless shadows below, and he had no idea how high up he or his boys were.
Hard turn, boss!
Gitslayer scrambled to the side of the skimmer that was away from the edge as he held on for dear life. He even fired his big shooter into the blackness below just to give a little bit more thrust to force the transport away from the edge. The Death Racers were trying to ram the orcs off the road now as they made the sharp turn onto the straightaway. Lunk and Stinker was shredded by more volleys of splinter fire.
Lunk and Stinker, those are great
off
names.
the top and fell into the darkness below. The skimmer was becoming damaged as well. It was more sturdily built than many of the Drukhari vehicles, but it could still only take so much punishment. Crumper could no longer push the vehicle any faster, and it was beginning to slow down.
Okay.
It was at this moment that Arcanol and his minions fired on the Death Racers. Showers of splinter fire rained among the spine shredders, and two bikers were immediately killed in the first salvo. The others reacted quickly and dodged the crashing jet bikes. The gang was taking serious casualties now, and they couldn't keep up pursuit with this new threat emerging. They weren't about to let the orcs get away.
I want a Dark Elder survival
With
set.
one last-ditch effort, one of the spine shredders rammed into the rear of the orc-ridden skimmer. This was just enough to send Gitslaire and his boar to the edge of the causeway. The bikers cheered in victory as the orcs plunged out of view, before quickly jetting away from their mysterious attackers, serpentining back and forth on their bikes to avoid additional fire. As the orcs flew through the air in their mangled skimmer, they contemplated their last moments.
We's all gonna die! Shut up, Crumper. We ain't gonna die. Look, there's a nice building right there to soften the fall.
With that, Gitslaire, Crumper, and his remaining boys crashed headlong into the VIP section of the Deviant Debauchery's Pleasure Spire.
Hey! Alright, get in line, guys. We're going on a trip. We're going on a trip. Hold on. Oh, God. We're going on a trip, you guys. Get ready. Thank you. Oh, God. Thank you, Karn. I really do appreciate it. Karn says, and 1 second, hold on. I must alert someone there's going to be sounds. I must alert somebody there's going to be sounds. 1 second. Whoa! I know. There we go. There we go. Thank you, Garn. I really do appreciate it, bud. I really do. Slacker, how dangerous would Sigismund be if he wasn't slowed down by age and still fought Abaddon? He would have won. He would have won hands down. How many champions of chaos would be needed to kill him? A lot. So a lot of the Space Marines' best blades were, I guess you could say they were very, very, they didn't do a good job, like, making sure everybody knew where everybody was in line. Sigismund was at the top, Sevatar was a close second, Sevatar being second only after Sigismund when Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, Space Marine. Then you had most definitely Karn, but everyone past that, you'd have to get 2 or 3 to take on any one of the top 3. Just flat out. Alright. Yeah, so it would take a lot of champions to kill Sigismund if Sigismund was in his prime. Thank you, Slacker. Yes, the pug is very angry.
Meanwhile,
I just love the fact they picked the sex orgy dungeon to crash into. This is great.
in the penthouse suite of Deviant Debaucheries,
Deviant
in the
Debaucheries
heart of Comorragh.
Oh, Eviscero, what an absolutely perfect night.
Oh yes, Disembowlina. If I could see the Flesh Festival with you every night, I would.
Disembowlina.
Oh, to see the sword swallowers and the fire eaters,
And listen to their screams dying in their throats as their lungs filled with blood.
And charcoal, my dear.
Are you warm enough, my dear? Shall I have the grotesques throw another monkey on the fire?
No, darling. I think we should start to wind things down for the night. Care to do a line of soulstone dust with me before bed?
Oh, with pleasure, my little...
Oh my god, come on. Come on.
Come here, you pansy runts. Don't you lordies regret getting a room with a view, huh, pansy?
Deviant debaucheries. One of the most opulent and decadent dens of iniquity that anyone could find in the Dark City, with exotic pleasures and torments so myriad and diverse that the initial orc assault went nearly unnoticed. Terrified screams
Imagine your place is so screwed up that you don't notice a bunch of orcs rampaging through.
common and simply indicative of a good show. It wasn't until the drug-addled minds of the revelers registered the sound of automatic shoot-a-fire that they began to realize that something
Yeah,
was
this is
definitely
perfectly-
amiss. By the time they came to this realization, usually angry greenskins were already kicking in their door and introducing the inhabitants to the business ends of their choppers.
Nice.
As the orcs shared their rustic sensibilities with the patrons of the establishment, deep in the pleasure palace, in the halls of agony, the illustrious homunculus Maestro Pyotr Chopovsky was in the middle of creating his...
These names, man. These names. Disembowelina. Eviscera. This guy. These names are awesome.
masterpiece, the Symphony of Sorrows. The maestro's flesh gauntlet danced over the ruined forms of his victims as he artfully administered almost loving strokes to their writhing flesh,
No.
bathing their nerves in unimaginable pain.
Stop.
Then, the room rumbled slightly from the
Yeah.
ruckus upstairs. An uncultured denizen of low Commorragh might not have noticed it, but that tiny disturbance disrupted the delicate equilibrium of some of the maestro's potent elixirs.
Oh.
With his tools spoiled, Chopovsky shattered the various potions, neurostimulators, and mutagens on the stage.
Go into nerd rage!
I cannot work like this. How can one be expected to create art when those debaucherous wretches upstairs can't keep it down?
You can't keep the music down! Sorry.
I mean,
Sorry.
this is debauchery too, but this is fancy debauchery. Show's over. Get out! Get out! I'm going to teach those plebeian troglodytes upstairs a lesson they will not forget.
Oh, yay. Oh, yay. We're going to continue on.
As Warboss Gitzlaire rampaged through deviant debaucheries, crumping every pansy he came across. He also found a plethora of slaves and pitiful creatures that frequently got shot up or smashed along with their cruel masters when the orcs burst in the door. For those fortunate enough to receive such mercy, it was a dream come true. Gitslaya and his boys also came across a few orc slaves that had been implanted with some kind of strange brain control device. These orcs were dressed funny, and apparently they had been used as butlers and objects of mockery by the Drukhari. Gitslaya did not have a dock on hand or time to remove these things properly, so he simply yanked the implants out of the orcs' heads and added a few more boys to his mob. These new orcs were quickly termed no-brain boys,
No
because
break.
they didn't really talk or do much besides act on the lowest and simplest of orc instincts.
So they did what normal orcs do. Sounds perfect.
Follow the
Dummy
biggest,
boys!
fight, and win. As Gitslaire rounded a corner, he suddenly came face to face
with the enraged homunculus maestro Pyotr Chopovsky and his
Pyotr
rat
Chopovsky.
and grotesque attendants.
Mm-hmm.
You ruined my symphony of suffering, my magnum opus of misery, my nocturne of not having a good time. You've destroyed it. And now I'm going to be composing a new body of work. Well, quite a few bodies by the looks of things. You will know the wrath of Pyotr Chopovsky.
Gitslaya, you know, the orcs are my least hated group of Xenos. Gitslaya, please, show this maestro the song and culture of your people. Just do it.
Without waiting for orders,
Yes,
the
Pyotr.
no-brain boys charged forward with wild shouts of "War!" Before the boys could even raise their makeshift cudgels, grotesques stepped forward and seized the first two as racks effortlessly snipped through their limbs with gruesome shears. Chopovsky himself gripped the final orc by the neck and hauled it off its feet with surprising strength.
Really?
His pain gauntlet
Hey, Verb.
danced over the orc briefly before the creature began to swell and his flesh turned a sick color of black and brown.
Lovely.
The orc gave a muffled cry of pain before he burst, engorged with exotic foul toxins and horrid fluids.
Nasty.
Gitslaya was unfazed by this brutal display, and the war boss gestured for the homunculus to come at him. Maestro Chopovsky gestured for his minions to stay back. This barbarian was going to experience high Drukhari culture personally.
No.
You are an uncultured barbarian, a Philistine, an uncivilized lout, a vulgar, brutish, brainless, tasteless, uncouth churl of the highest order.
I think that's the Maestro's stiff upper lip way of saying that he doesn't like him. Thank you, Slacker. Slacker says, I think Twitch would side with the Dark Eldar. Yes, he would. Before Sarge would smack him and tell him to fight both sides and plant more mines and melted charges on support pillars. This is very true. I fully think Twitch would side with the Dark Eldar, and that makes me confused in my own head. Because I really like Twitch. I really do. Twitch is my spirit animal for AGT. Thank you, Slacker.
And you are a big get with a big mouth.
Gitslaya was tough, but he wasn't too keen on finding out if his hearty constitution could handle the sadistic concoction that Chopovsky carried. Fortunately, Gitslaya was quick. Very quick. Quick enough to catch a witch off guard. Chopovsky
That's fast,
came at
by the way.
Gitslaya, lunging and trying to catch him with his pain gauntlet. This gave Gitslaya a chance to gauge his enemy's speed and skill. After a final thrust, the warboss caught Chopovsky's gauntlet in his claw. But before Gitslaya could snap his claw shut, the maestro had already slipped away.
You're quick for an oafish buffoon.
Ooh!
You strong for a weedy pansy.
Orcs cheered on their warboss. The racks and grotesques made sonorous keening sounds of agony in support of the maestro.
You're flat, Jerome. Don't make me alter your vocal cords again.
Really?
The rack hung his head in shame. The two went back and forth, Gitslaya being sure to avoid the malignant pain gauntlet, and Chopovsky avoiding the warboss's titanic claw. Eventually, Gitslaya missed his attack and slammed his claw into the wall. Chopovsky saw his opening and dashed forward.
Oh.
Unfortunately for him, Gitslaya quickly swung his claw back, bringing a hefty piece of the wall with him. The maestro realized what was happening a little too late and was clobbered by Gitslaya's backswing.
Nice.
Gitslaya was about to finish off the maestro when he heard footsteps coming down the hallway. dozens of heavily armed Drukhari began rushing in and firing on the orcs. A few boys dropped as the racks and grotesques pushed forward to save the maestro. Gitslaire realized he was outnumbered and trapped. He looked over to the wall.
Wait a minute, that shouldn't be happening. He's an orc. There's always more orcs, aren't there?
That he had torn open, and there seemed to be an empty shaft of some sort.
Come on, boys. We gotta keep moving. Ain't no sense dying in this stinking place.
Gitslaire leapt into the darkness. Krumpa and the remaining orcs followed him. He was down to about 10 of them now. What Gitslaire didn't realize was that he had just jumped
All right,
into
Burb, you
the
have a nice day,
central
bud.
garbage chute of the Pleasure Palace. All of the trash and leftovers from the depraved
Oh, no! Oh, God, no! Oh, that's just nasty.
indulgences of the clientele
Ugh.
were simply dumped into the shaft,
Ugh.
which ended in a dimensional rift which sent all their refuse into the bone midden of Comorragh. As
Ugh.
Gitslaire and his boys jumped down the shaft, Chapovsky shoved the wall off himself, and his racks helped him to his feet.
Ugh.
Shall we follow the maestro?
Follow him? Into the bone midden? Ew, no. That is where poor people live. Oh, I feel like my artistic integrity has already been compromised, even thinking about it.
After
Oh, God. Mr. Reich asked, what do Dark Eldar consider trash? Do you really need to ask that question? This was basically the Dark Eldar's little getaway. This was in Commorragh, the Dark Eldar's little place to get away and be a little extreme. In Commorragh, this was the place. And you're wondering what went down that chute? Do you really want to know the answers to those questions?
falling for quite
I don't.
some time, Gitslaire and his boys had a surprisingly soft landing. Apparently, the cleanup crew that had followed behind Gitslaire's rampage had been dumping the bodies of deceased patrons down the chute.
There you go.
And that's exactly what the orcs landed on, with a loud, wet crunch. Gitslaire looked around, but he could barely see anything around him. It was so dark, and his auspex were on the fritz at the moment, and he couldn't get his heat vision working. As he and the boys climbed to their feet, Krumpa managed to get a lumen stick he had on him to light. In the dim, eerie glow, there were dozens of pairs of eyes that reflected the light back at the orcs.
Nice.
The eyes began to move forward as Gitslaire readied his claw. His big shooter had run out of Daka back at Deviant Debaucheries.
No Daka?
Boss, I think we might have come to the wrong neighborhood.
When the orcs are scared to come in your hood. When orcs are scared to come in your hood. Thank you, Slacker. Reladorn is the Blood Angels' first captain. He was one of the few people capable of fighting Sigismund to a draw. Because we've never seen them fight, we've had no clue who'd win. Sigismund likely to win. Sigismund changed in the Siege of Terra. He changed. Even Karn saw it. Even as crazy as Karn was when he fought Sigismund the second time, he knew something had changed in Sigismund. Sigismund, the first time Karn and Sigismund fought during the Siege of Terra, Karn won that fight. The second time, Karn was saying that there was a massive difference in the way that Sigismund had engaged him. And he knew he wasn't a match for Sigismund anymore at all. And Sigismund was now on a completely different level, just based off the mental that he approached with. So, if there was a Space Marine captain that matched up well with Sigismund and could fight Sigismund to a draw before the Siege of Terra, they would be left behind afterwards. Because Sigismund was on a completely different stage at that point. Thank you, Slacker. The Bowmans have nothing known Detroit. The orcs got dropped into Flint. No, the orcs got dropped into Gary, Indiana.
Bone middens of Comorragh.
Yay!
A veritable wasteland of ruins and filth. It is akin to the underhive of the great metropolises of the Imperium.
Only from Commorragh's
Though the
standpoint.
dregs of Comorragh make the gangers of Necromunda look like upstanding, productive citizens by comparison.
There's a statement for you. Thank you, Dark. Raladorn and Corsair were often compared to Sigismund. Putting them up there was Karn and Sevatar. Sigismund became a champion of Imperial faith. Yeah, that's accurate. That's entirely accurate. Thank you, Dark. The thing about the main reason I'm pulling from this, I'm waiting for the next book to come out in the Siege of Terra because I want to see if I'm right about what's happened to Sigismund. Sigismund is legitimately fighting like a deranged creature right now, and I wanted to see what was going to happen. Sigismund versus Dante. Sigismund, like, legitimately post Siege of Terra engagement. Sigismund always. And you got to remember, Abaddon was considered the best fighter in the entirety of the Sons of Horus, and he knew that Sigismund would beat the hell out of him. He knew it. He automatically knew it. And that was not... It was just completely just brutal. Thank you, Dark. Karn in the chat said, I'm going to have to go now. Just a quick info. Streamstorm's Faultless got a sequel called Conspire. A lot of people have been messaging about that. I'm actually going to watch that later today, just as an add-in, because I've been waiting for the sequel to that coming up. He says he's looking forward to seeing the reaction to this, but he has to go. Karn, you have a wonderful day, bud. I hope you have a great day. There's a lot to be said about the change that happened in Sigismund. If you have not read Warhawk, I really, really recommend it, just based off the fact that the second fight between Karn and Sigismund is one of the best literary things I've seen in a bit. Dark says, really got to get you to Baltimore's Black Templar vid at some point. There's a big Sigismund twist in this. Yeah. I think I've already done Sigismund's Black Templars. Or not Sigismund Black Templars. Baltimore's Black Templars. I have no idea. Oh, Ronnie, there's always traitors in this stream, and we know this. Here we go.
Cabals who have fallen from power often slink to the middens to lick their wounds and recover.
True.
Horrid abominations. Rejected homunculi test subjects roam the shadows. The lowest of the low Drukhari end up here, starving for souls, as do a myriad of other Xenos races that have somehow escaped captivity. They live here as well, if it could be called living. It was into this pit that Warboss Gitzlaire and the remainder of his boys ended up after fleeing deviant debaucheries through their garbage chute. The orcs then found themselves surrounded by dozens of gleaming eyes in the darkness. Poodle, the attack squig, leapt from Gitslaya's shoulder and snarled at the approaching creatures. The eyes seemed to back away a little, as if assessing the danger the orcs posed to them. Poodle seized on the hesitation and snapped at the dark shapes. There was a cry of pain as the attack squig pulled the mysterious creature into the light of Krumpa's lumen stick. It was an orc.
Really?
Orcs were not uncommon to Comorragh. Numerous raids have been executed in order to bring back the brutish creatures for the witch cult gladiatorial battles. Other times, orc wars accidentally found their way to the Dark City. Or, more likely, they were manipulated into plowing into a rival Archon's territory.
This is accurate.
Regardless, orc spores have found some purchase in the various poorer districts, sewer systems, and other dank areas of Comorragh. However, these orcs have never been a major threat because there are so many other vicious, horrifying monstrosities that live in these areas.
This is accurate.
That orcs have not been able to gain the numbers they need to even start the simplest, lowest of tribes. So, when Gitslaya looked down at the orc Poodle had dragged into the light, it was a pretty sad-looking orc. Its green skin was pale and almost yellowish. It was small and runty, and not much bigger than a humie. It was armed with little more than a sharp piece of scrap, and wore nothing but a few rags and a loincloth. The orc yelled in pain as Poodle shook him gleefully.
Oh, he likes ya.
Gitslaya smiled and grabbed the lumen stick from Crumpa.
Give me that.
The warboss moved with the light towards the other shining eyes, and saw that the other orcs were in roughly the same sorry state as this one. Some were missing eyes, others were missing limbs that had either been replaced by hooks or crude pegs.
You lot look like the saddest bunch of freebooters I ever saw.
Real quick, Captain Tybalt says his personalist is Space Marine duelist Sigismund, Sevatar, Karn, Garo, Raladon, Corswain, Jubal Khan, Phosis Dakar. Not many people give Phosis Dakar enough credit. Nikiona Sharokin, and Loken, Garvio Loken. I can agree with most of that list. I really, really can.
Small, sickly orcs cringed away from the boisterous warboss.
Yes, they're basically token
What
orcs.
the zog is wrong with you lot? Ain't you orcs? Where's your boss?
An orc stepped forward who looked a bit bigger than the others.
Okay.
He was still smaller than any of the boys Gitslaya had in his mob.
Alright.
Zog. This is sad.
Gitslaya took one step off the trash pile, and he heard a hissing in the dark. He gave his bionic eye a good whack to get it working again.
Nice.
And his heat vision sputtered back to functionality.
Yay!
The orc warboss saw a wicked creature running on many legs. It was some sort of abomination of flesh. Different limbs from many different creatures had been melded together to form a centipede-like monstrosity that reared itself up. 3 faces that might have been human or Eldar seemed to be melted together into one bulbous head.
Nice.
With 3 enormous spikes emerging from their mouths.
That's lovely.
The lesser orcs cowered before the creature and tried to flee.
You lot is the worst. Get your blood up, boys. It's time to learn how to war.
The creature towered head and shoulders above the massive warboss. Its body length was at least 3 times his height. The many grasping arms of the creature tried to pull Gitslaya towards its venomous pincers, emerging from the creature's twisted faces. But the warboss tore away from them, bashing away the grabby bits with his big, empty shooter. The creature pushed forward, throwing its entire weight on top of the huge orc. Gitslaya stumbled back a bit, but he planted his boots and held his ground. Poodle left the orc he had been playing with and chomped down on the creature's back end.
Poodle just bit this thing's ass. Thank you, Dark. Correcting yourself, you mean Baltimore's Emperor's Champion video. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've seen the Black Templar and I've seen the Sigismund videos.
Abomination
Thank you, Dark.
Screeched and turned towards Poodle, preparing to lunge forward with its dripping pincers. The warboss seized his opportunity, and with a swipe of his massive power claw, Gitslaya neatly chopped the head clean off the horrid thing. The many arms and legs of the creature flailed as it thrashed about, spraying strange black ichor everywhere. The ichor hissed
That's
and
our boy.
steamed, eating away at anything it touched. Gitslaya was spattered a bit, but the acid didn't seem to harm the hearty orc too much, leaving minor burns across his arm and a bit of pocking on his great claw. After dispatching the creature, the warboss turned back to the rather pathetic orcs.
Listen, I'm getting out of Commorragh, And I need every boy I can get if I'm gonna make that push. You's the saddest lot I've ever met. But you can bet a forearm through. Mister, I'll make a orc out of you.
God. Why the Mulan reference? Why the Mulan reference? Did I really need that?
Poodle happily trotted back to Warboss Gitzlaire and scrambled awkwardly back onto his shoulder. The great orc began scratching his head, trying to think of his next step. Very quickly, he gave up.
Look, let's just smash stuff and build a wall. We keep fighting till a smart boy pops out the ground. And then he can do all that stupid thinking stuff. Come on, lads. We got a lot of work to do. Whoa!
There we go. Yes, Dara says, counter question, why not a Mulan rest? Let's get down to business to make a wall. Yes. Oh, God. Here comes the next... Okay, here comes the next part. Oh, God. Damn it.
Let's get down to business to kill and destroy. Did they send me snortlings when I asked for boys? You're the saddest lot I've ever met, but you can bet a four we're through. Just 'cause I'll make a all out of you.
Why?
Killing all around us, talking more within.
Oh, God.
You was made for fighting, made to kill and win. You just spineless tail, pathetic lot, and you haven't got a clue. Yes, now I'll make a all out of you.
Hey, babe.
Yeah.
You want to know what I'm doing?
What?
I'm listening to an orc sing Mulan.
I'm never gonna catch me breath. I'd rather be killing you, means. Why do I got a foot slug? Where's me truck? This ball's got the face of death. Hope it doesn't chop right through me. Watching you almost stick me goalie. Ah! Be your orc, you must be green as the slimy river. Be your orc, with all the force of the big death tree. Be your orc,
What?
with all the darker and burning fire. Killiest until all the kids is dead.
Doesn't even rhyme and I don't care.
Freaks is racing towards us when the kids arrive. Shoot and kill and chop 'em until none survive. You ain't green enough for the mighty war, so zog off, get dragged you through. How could I make a orc out of you?
I'm so disturbed.
Be a orc, you must be green as the slimy river. Be a orc with all the force of the big death tree. Be a orc
I
with
can't.
all the darker and burning fire. The killiest until all the kids is dead.
This is so depressing.
Be a orc, you must be
Stop
green
it.
as the slimy river. Be a
Stop
orc
it.
with all the force of the big death tree. Be a orc
Uh.
with all the darker and burning fire. The chilliest until all the kids
No,
is
Ronnie, I
dead.
don't expect it, but still. I feel a massive amount of depression. Yes, this is still better than the Disney remake. It is still better than the Disney remake. Yes, Dark, return to Monkey. Do it. Do it.
Yellowbelly slunk through the blackened, charred remains of some long-forgotten bastion in Lower Commorragh, looking for scraps and something to eat. The famished orc spotted something small scuttle past him and hide underneath a gap in the wall. The orc gripped his crude spear as he ducked down low and jabbed it into the hiding spot that his potential meal slipped into. A piercing squeal told the orc that his stab had hit home, and he pulled out a writhing creature that looked similar to a spider, except that its body looked like it was formed from a ghostly white hand with long, thin fingers.
No.
As he prepared to enjoy his meal,
Ugh.
Yellowbelly suddenly heard a strange sound. He could hear a woman weeping. The orc turned around to see a hideous, limbless, serpentine creature rise into...
Excellent Chattanooga, Oliver.
to view with a whip-like tail that ended in a cruel, tearing barb. The face of the creature was that of a young, beautiful woman whose face was twisted in permanent agony. Before Yellowbelly could even blink, the creature snapped its tail towards the orc. And that would have been the end of him right then and there, if an enormous claw didn't catch the barb in midair just before the unfortunate greenskin was impaled. Warboss Gitzlaire moved like lightning, and his other meaty paw gripped the creature by the head, quickly crushing the skull. The monstrosity gurgled and flailed against the powerful orc long after its death throes should have ended.
Nice.
Zog, this one ain't got its brains in its head either. Boys, chop this get open till it stops trying to be killy.
Yellowbelly sighed in relief as he moved forward and began stabbing into the writhing guts of the creature.
Nice.
Other orcs emerged from their ambush points and joined in the search for the creature's central nervous system. Eventually, the biological horror was subdued, and the orcs began carrying the carcass back to the tribe.
Yellowbelly, you're weedy, rutty, and you can't fight worth a zog. But you're pretty good bait. Let's eat. I'm zogging starving.
The orc tribe, which now called itself the Gut Rippers, had established itself in an old abandoned stronghold of one of the lesser Drukhari cabals. The main building had been smashed apart years ago, but the orcs piled up rubble in order to create a simple defensive perimeter. At first, it didn't appear to be a very good orc hold.
No.
However, the important thing that the stronghold provided was a series of underground escape tunnels that Krumpa and Poodle discovered by accident when they were playing Bury the Grot. If anything attacked in force, the orcs would simply use the escape tunnels and emerge outside the perimeter to surround the attackers once they breached the walls. The tribe itself was still fairly small, and there was almost no tech to speak of. Most of the weapons and armor that the orcs managed to scavenge were from the various terrors that stalked the darkness of the Bone Middens. The Gut Rippers carried various hooks, stingers, and scythes harvested from the many lurking creatures. The tribe also seemed to be developing a proper culture.
Lovely.
Despite Gitslaya's gothy influence, the orcs seemed to be a bit more snake-bitey, which wasn't a bad thing. The snakebites were proper orcs that could hold their own in a fight, and they could make the best out of the very limited low-tech scrap that the orcs could pull together at the moment. Runt herders abound, and they were raising fresh crops of squigs. Poodle was much larger and more ferocious than any of the others, and quickly became a pack leader among the ravenous lesser orcoids. Gitslaya had mostly busied himself with impatiently waiting for a smart boy to emerge from his fungal cocoon. As a goth, Gitslaya had always solved his problems simply by moving forward and killing anything in front of him. But there was no forward in Commorragh. Everything looped back on itself and seemed to stretch on forever. And the things to fight were never in front of you. They were always to the side, behind, and underneath. It was a frustrating place to be.
Yeah, Ronnie, I want to hear that.
Gitslaya, more than ever, wanted to be out of here and back by Gazgul's side. While munching on a healthy raw steak sliced from the serpent creature, Gitslaya visited the spore fields that had been dug out in the escape tunnel area. A few new boys were digging themselves out of the piles of filth and offal that the orcs had stacked up.
Nice.
The war boss roughly seized an orc and began questioning each of them.
Is you a smart boy?
What?
Gitslaya tossed him aside and went on to the next one.
Imagine being born and then you have this asshole in front of your face.
You a smart boy?
Is I what, boy?
Tossed aside.
Is you a smart boy?
Well, I think that...
Perfect. We got a fight. You tell me how to get out of this pansy hole.
The bewildered orc stammered in confusion, but Gitslaya knew he had found what he was looking for. Smart boys were usually confused and trying to figure things out. When a normal orc is confused, if he cannot quickly figure out why something is happening, he will immediately stop thinking about it and simply accept the situation.
Okay.
I'ma call you Red Brain, so you can think faster and get us the Zorg out of here.
Despite being born literally a few moments before,
No, Carlos,
Red
they
Brain
just
took
literally...
to his assigned task.
They literally swept
Took
him.
a few more weeks of Red Brain learning about the strange place he had been spored into before he was able to come up with something resembling a plan. Gitslaya assigned Crumpa to keep Red Brain alive. The old truck boy was quickly growing into a knob as the tribe expanded. He and the other orcs from the initial escape from the witch arena acted as Red Brain's retinue and bodyguard. At the end of those first few weeks, Red Brain entered Gitslaya's boss hut as the powerful orc grumbled and ate his meal.
Why does all my food scream or cry all the zogged time?
Hey, boss. I think I have an idea of how to get out of this place.
Finally! What's your stupid smart plan then, Red Brain?
I think we need to nick ourselves a pansy. Now, not one of the 6 skinny pansies that live down here. We need a proper fancy pansy.
Fancy
Shall we
pansy.
get him? And we interrogate the pansy.
Interrogate the
And
pansy.
then we get that git to tell us the way out.
A fancy pansy, eh?
I love the logic here.
You got a way we can catch a fancy pansy?
Yeah, I think I got a proper plan. But I don't think you're gonna like it.
Ah.
Noman do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Thank you all very much for watching. Noman out. Bone Picker squatted.
To catch a pansy. To catch a pansy. Alright, guys. We're going to take a quick 5-minute and come back and continue watching this. Who wants a pug? Who wants me to bring back a pug? Now, that thing right there looks decidedly angrier than your average bear. 1 second. I just want to check something out really quick. Oh. Oh, cool. Good. I am good to go. Tell me how to leave. Tell me how to leave. Tell me how to leave. Yeah. Okay. So, 5 minutes, guys. Be right back. I'll restart at 14 after. Yeah. The pug has been requested. listen to a story about orcs healing Dark Eldar. You're gonna love it. You're gonna absolutely love it. I know you're gonna love it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be absolutely great. You're gonna love it. You're gonna absolutely love this. I promise. Trust me. 100%. Okay. You see that? That's a dork. It's a pansy. Look at it. Yes. I know. It's disgusting, isn't it? Yes. This. There it is. You're being judged by the Puglar. The Puglar is judging you. Yes. I now have an arm puglet. An arm puglet? Yes. It's very tiny. It is very tiny and very angry. Very tiny and very angry. Well, you're not really angry, are you? You're just cute. You're just ridiculously cute. For no good reason. Yes, I know. Yes. Yes. You just want to pet this creature. Oh, hold on a second. Boop! There we go. Yes, you little pet this creature. Yes. So in about a month and some change, yes, it's an aspirate for the Black Templars. In about a month and some change, a little bit of real stuff for you guys. This is formerly Strider. Her name is now Winnie, and she is going to be going to Michigan in about 5 weeks. She's going to be going to a special education teacher who is going to have her be a therapy dog, and she's going to be working with special education students. And I can't think of, like, she's my favorite out of the three, and it's going to be sad. It's going to be I'm going to be sad when I have to give her up, but at the same time, I know she's going to be doing great things for our special education students. She's going to be very, very good. She's going to be awesome. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And I will miss you. I will. I will. I will. All right. So, we're going to watch something, okay? Okay? All right. All right. Here we go. There we go. Hey, Fluffy, what's up, buddy? Hey, Fluffy, how was your game, bud? Yeah. Replacing Strider with the Puck. Okay, here we go. To catch a pansy.
In a dark corner of some abandoned ruin, hunched over a scrap of meat. He had tasted real power once. Long ago. Once he could walk through the streets of the dark city, and hush whispers followed him wherever he went. He was once called Calistrixus, Archon of the Blood Quarter, when his skills were sharp and his ambition knew no bounds. But that was many, many years ago. But in Comorragh the mighty fall quickly. He lost everything, even his name. Now, he was only Bone Picker, lurking between the borders of Lower Comorragh and the Bone Middens. Bone Picker used to indulge in the most elaborate and decadent of pleasures. Now, the height of his joy was when he got his hands on a stray escaped slave once in a while. He had to survive only on the suffering he could extract with his blade. It was a simple rack tool that he had managed to scavenge from a skirmish between two homunculi. The searing venom of the weapon still coaxed the nourishing soul energy from his victims that Bone Picker craved. The wretched creature's ear twitched as he heard the sound of movement. There was a scrabbling against the rubble.
They're going after
that seemed to
this
grow
guy.
louder. The pale, gaunt Drukhari looked out from the husk of a building he was squatting in. Out of the peephole, he saw a large beast tearing towards the door.
Lovely.
The thing was an ugly ball of claws and teeth, and it led a pack of smaller, equally ugly mouths on legs. Bone Picker's eyes went wide as he just barely was able to leap back from the door as it burst apart. Poodle led his squig pack after this miserable Drukhari. Bone Picker tried to leap for the chain hooks hanging from the ceiling to climb out of the escape hole up top, but squigs of all sizes latched their hungry mouths on his legs, weighing him down. Poodle himself bounded forward and caught the Dark Eldar by the waist and yanked him free from the chains. Bone Picker panicked as he saw his miserable, debaucherous life flash before his eyes. He screamed out pathetically as he realized he was about to die and face the eternal torture at the hands of She Who Thirsts.
Nice.
Bone Picker was dragged out of the house as Poodle began padding off happily with his prize. But the Eldar was not dead. It was a few minutes before the Drukhari stopped his blubbering and realized he hadn't died, that this creature was taking him someplace. Eventually, Poodle spat out Bone Picker, and he found himself bleeding, covered in squig slobber,
Lovely.
at the feet of Warboss Gitzlaire.
Nice.
Good boy, Poodle. Good fetch. Here, have a treat.
The Warboss flung a foot from a pile of dismembered limbs to the lead squig, as runt herders began to gather them up and get them back into their pens. Gitslaya turned his attention to the low-life Drukhari that had been brought before him. Bone Picker regained some of his composure when he realized he wasn't going to be killed. Yet.
Oi! Make sure this one don't die!
The tribe of orcs was still too primitive for true docs,
Nice.
but the pig docs came forth with their potions and tinctures distilled in the finest medical squigs they could breed.
Oh my god.
They began roughly applying them to Bone Picker's wounds. The potions caused searing pain, so much so that a normal human likely would have passed out from the agony.
Yeah?
Bone Picker was a coward, but he was Drukhari enough to withstand these brutish remedies without flinching.
No!
The Warboss brought his face within inches of Bone Picker's.
You heard of me?
Bone Picker looked the orc up and down. He actually had. One of the big-name homunculi put out a hit on an orc warboss. Apparently, some orcs had gone on a rampage after escaping from the witch arenas, and their leader had gotten on the bad side of Maestro Chopovsky.
Nice.
I've heard of you. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, Orc, when the Dark Maestro gets a hold of you.
I don't want to be in your shoes either. Too small. Listen up, you weedy pansy. I can crump you right here and tell Poodle to fetch me another one of you gets if I want. Shut it and listen, or the grods will be scraping you off me boot. Now, from what Red Brain tells me, you lot is always fighting to be boss, and the fancier you lot is, the more bossy you is. I want me a fancy pansy.
Bone Picker chose his words carefully.
You have a plan, then? Bravo, Greenskin. Does it involve us all getting exploded?
Come on.
Red Brain shot down that idea. Look, here's what we're gonna do.
A few districts away, Maestro Chopovsky was suffering from torturer's block. As his subjects screamed and writhed on his slab, he couldn't help but let out a sigh of dissatisfaction. His audience didn't care for the subtle nuances, the little moments of pain, the feeling of a brave creature losing all hope.
Ugh.
The only thing they cared for was if they got fed.
Is Gitslaya
Never
related
taking
to
a moment
Rogal Dorn?
Appreciate and
Love it.
savor the meal. When Chopovsky's performance was over, the homunculus quickly exited the performance hall. Ever since that wretched orc had disrupted what was supposed to be his magnum opus in deviant debaucheries, he'd been distracted,
He wanted to make the orc pay, but he also knew how hard it was to coax suffering from those beasts. Their dull intelligence and minimum pain response was more than a challenge for most Drukhari to feed on. A challenge. Yes. That was what he needed. The maestro needed a fresh new challenge. As soon as the degenerates from Lower Commorragh captured that brute, he would have the joy of pushing his skills to the limit.
Oh, yes.
Could he break an orc warboss? Could he make it...
And you see, that's not an unusual thing for Dark Eldar to try to do. That's not an unusual thing, especially if they're very, very skilled. They will try to capture orcs because the sheer notion of getting pain out of an orc is considered a high challenge. Gitslaye's ex-space moron of Oracle Dorn. I can rock with that. I can really rock with that.
Squeal and mule and beg the way the Monkey did.
Monkey.
The maestro perked up a bit at these thoughts as one of his racks shambled up to him. Yes, what is it, Jerome? The rack handed the maestro a scrap of paper. They've caught him? I don't believe it. You saw it yourself, you say? Saw the ugly mug of that brute? Well, then I think we should give this miserable wretch a visit. Fetch me my anti-poverty suit, Jerome. We're selling it today. I'll finally have my revenge. Redbrain was right.
Anti-poverty suit?
Gitslaya hated this plan. He was chained up and encased in a metal coffin made of some sort of material that even he couldn't break out of if he tried. Redbrain and Bonepicker insisted that they needed to make this look convincing. There were a few other ratty-looking Dark Eldar that the orcs had roped into the scheme that were milling about the cavernous warehouse that was stacked with containment vessels where they had all agreed to meet with the maestro.
Anti-poverty
This
suit.
is a stupid plan, and it ain't gonna work.
Yes, you're probably right. Gitslaya growled at the Drukhari as the degenerate shot him a smug grin. At the far end of the warehouse, the homunculus arrived with his full retinue of racks and grotesques, shambling behind him with wailing misery. Chapovsky had spared nothing on the pomp and circumstance of his arrival, even
Of
having
course.
one of his racks carry a kind of banner, which was an eviscerated monkey, still wailing as its innards were splayed out for the onlookers to appreciate.
Oh, God.
Pyotr Chapovsky himself was wearing a kind of void suit, presumably to keep the poor from infecting him, as he put it.
What sweet urchins you are to bring me such a prize.
Bonepicker grinned confidently.
Bagged them just for you. Just looking for the reward. You know we scanned this place thoroughly. Is it really just you five? No ambush? No tricks? I don't believe it for a second. Whatever you're scheming, I'm not leaving anything to chance. Jerome, kill the lot of them. Leave the orc for me.
Uh-huh.
The shambling horde rushed forward, wailing and screeching. Warboss Gitzlaire sighed and shook his head in annoyance. Before him was a wonderful pile of enemies to scrap with, and here he was completely stuck.
Yeah, that sucks.
He really hoped Redbrain's plan worked, because if they got out of this, that smart git needed a proper punch in the mouth. Noman, do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Noman out. Warboss Gitzlaire was stuck. He had been locked up nice and tight. Chains upon chains and plasteel upon plasteel sealed him in the box, with only one small slit for his vision. He could see the maestro and his racks charging towards him, with only 5 weedy spiky pansies to stand in their way.
Spiky pansies, I love it.
What the maestro didn't know was that Redbrain and Bonepicker had anticipated this possibility.
They had deliberately chosen a warehouse that was used by a group of smugglers involved in trafficking humies and pansies into Comorragh to be sold.
Nice.
What the smugglers had discovered was a way to befuddle scanners that could detect life signs. So any living creature could be stuffed into the cargo containers whenever Imperial patrols scanned for contraband.
Nice.
So, when the maestro scanned the warehouse, he believed Bone Picker and his ragged crew were alone. Oh, they most assuredly were not.
You ordered Burger King?
Yes,
Why?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry?
I ordered you food.
You ordered me food? Okay. You're forgiven.
Whoa!
Crumpa burst out from one of the shipping containers along with a mob made up of the surviving Goths from the escape. Redbrain was much more quiet when he slipped out of his crate, and he moved to free Warboss Gitzlaire from his box. Poodle and his pack of squigs leapt free from the confines of their boxes and began gnashing their teeth as they charged headlong into the fray. More of the Gut-Ripper tribe emerged from hiding, and the maestro found himself caught in an ambush.
I would have expected this kind of treachery from a poor, partnering with orcs. How incredibly gauche of you.
What?
Jerome, peel the skin from their faces. We're about to engage in some improvisational paincraft.
The orcs, Squigs, and Gretchen plowed into each other. The orcs wielded looted scrap with surprising brutality. A few orcs threw crates into the pile of racks and grotesques. One rack was crushed immediately, but one of the hulking flesh abominations simply headbutted one of the crates, shattering it, and the creature wailed with joyfully intoxicating sensation of pain. Chapovsky himself was deftly slicing through orcs that approached him. Crumpa was fighting his way toward the maestro, but his minions were protecting him from the orc truck boy.
Redbrain, get me out of this thing!
I'm working on it. Just give me a second.
Seconds up! Why is I still stuck in here?
As Redbrain fumbled with the locks and seals on the box, Bone Picker and the other Drukhari slunk up behind him and leveled their weapons at him. How about you leave that smell-filling beast where he is? Redbrain stopped and held up his hands.
What is you talking about? That maestro Git is gonna stick you good. And from me research, I think spiky pansies don't like dying.
No, they don't.
And what happens when you orcs win? You either kill us, or we're enslaved to keep working as your puppets until you kill us later. I know how you greenskins work. Don't worry. You can let your boss out in a moment. Once the maestro thins out your tribe a little bit. Nothing personal, orc. It's just business. I'll just have a stronger hand to play if the orcs and the maestro wipe each other out.
I'm gonna rip your Gittish pansy faces off and feed them to Poodle. I'm gonna burn down this whole stupid Git city.
I'd like to see you try from inside that box, orc.
Redbrain grinned, still holding his hands up.
He was
Spiky
pretty
pansies.
smart. The fancy pansy tried to snick us, so we tricked him, tried to snick him, and now you're trying to get us all snicked. Just like I planned. No, wait, I didn't plan for any of this at all.
So get Redbrain. I thought you was a smart boy.
Boss, I's only 2 weeks old. And hardly a match for the great Calistrixus, the scourge of the Blood Quarter, Arcana Yellow Belly.
The weedy, skinny orcs that Gutsmangle first met in the Bone Middens had been left out of the plan. Gitslaya had excluded them because they were, quote, completely un-orky, cowardly gits that weren't good for nothing.
Right.
They had stayed back. But once the other orcs had left, Yellow Belly felt he had something to prove. Maybe he could be more than a weedy, weak, sad excuse for an orc.
Maybe.
He hesitated. But eventually, he got up the courage
to follow after Gitslaya. The Warboss was convinced that these runts were no good for anything. But there Yellowbelly stood, a healthy-sized rock in his hand, as Bonepicker cried out, holding his own hand to his bleeding head.
Nice.
I might not be much, but today, I's a orc.
The
Ooh.
small orcs hooted and hollered as they hurled their crude weapons down at the Drukhari. While the others were distracted, Redbrain took advantage of Bonepicker's wound to deliver a powerful headbutt to the back of his skull, dropping the traitorous pansy. The other Dark Eldar easily dodged the thrown weapons and ran to engage the weak orcs. But Yellowbelly and his crew were very good at hiding and slipping into small places. They quickly melted away into the pile of crates, setting up ambushes for the Dark Eldar if they followed them. Redbrain resumed working to free Gitslaya. Meanwhile, the retinue of Maestro Chopovsky had absorbed the initial charge and now were pushing back. The grotesques led the way, battering the orcs out of the way as Rax neatly and efficiently dismembered the crude greenskins. Poodle and his pack moved to flank and harry the abominations, but the formation was too tightly packed for the squig to really break in. Poodle growled angrily out of range of the cruel weapons of the Maestro. Chopovsky himself was now going blade to blade with Krumpa.
You're the one they sent against me. The big one couldn't defeat me before. What makes you think you can defeat me now?
Oh, God.
Joke's on you, pansy. I don't think.
Krumpa swung his chopper at the Maestro, who deftly dodged out of the way, and he brought his surgical shears down on the orc's arm, severing it immediately.
Hold on a second.
Krumpa roared.
What?
Bring me the Winnie.
Okay, fine. Hold on a second. You're interrupting the story. Why are you interrupting the story? Okay, fine. Coming. Here it is. She's little and sad. Here. Yeah. Ah, okay. Well, yay. I had to bring her back the pug. She got jealous. Is what it is. Here we go.
In pain, as the bleeding stump burned with whatever horrific thing Chopovsky had coated the blades with. Orcs don't have much of a pain response. Pain for an orc simply makes them dimly aware that they've been injured.
Yeah.
But this was something different. Krumpa yelled out again as his arm hissed and burned. A normal human would have passed out from the pain, but Krumpa roared and swung his other chopper. A quick snip, and that arm was gone too.
Whew.
Speaking of jokes, you're a joke, you know that? You're nothing to me. An inferior being with inferior skills.
Oh, God.
Shut up.
Krumpa threw himself forward and managed to bash his head into the protective helmet of the Maestro's anti-poverty
Oh,
suit,
no.
shattering the visor and smashing the bridge of the Maestro's nose. Krumpa grinned victoriously,
Ah.
just for a moment, before he was stabbed through the chest and ripped apart by Chopovsky's most trusted rack.
Ugh.
By the muses, Jerome, you couldn't have chosen worse timing. The containment's been breached, and I've been infected with the poor. Next thing you'll know, I'll be buying lottery tickets and eating canned groks.
I feel personally attacked.
As Chopovsky wiped the strange liquid from his nose that might have been blood, but with the homunculus, you never know.
No, you don't.
He looked up to see a very angry warboss standing over him.
I need you alive so I can get out of this place. But I don't need you to be in one piece.
Nice.
This one is for Krumpa.
Oh boy.
Noman do they call me. My mother and my father.
Moving right along. Gitslaya's rematch. Here we go.
Homunculus wiped away the fluid leaking from his nose, still swearing about his compromised anti-poverty suit. Warboss Gitzlaire towered over Maestro Chopovsky as the body of Crumper lay between them.
You shouldn't have crumped Crumper.
Really?
Are you,
F in the chat for Crumpa.
are you actually sad that this one died?
Oh my god.
Oh, oh, that is too rich. An orc mourning for the loss of one of his boys. The one thing I was willing to grant your misbegotten species was that you weren't saddled with crippling emotions and foolish sentiment.
This guy is obvious bad guy from every
You
single movie made in
are
the past
going
10
to
years.
Spend the rest of your days in my misery pod, and we'll see what other soft emotions I can wring from your green hide. Oh, I would love to use your saffron
Will he do
wares
something?
to strengthen my base section. No, Jerome, you're not being replaced. Besides, you're a baritone tops, and that's when you wake up with
Oh,
a sore
God.
throat. Now stop being such a needy little baby.
Warboss Gitzlaire reached into the melee between his boys and the racks and grotesques of the homunculus and yanked out the one known as Jerome with his great power claw.
Huh.
You crump my knob, I stomp yours.
You unhand Jerome this instant.
Jerome, no!
Oh, why? Is it 'cause you got all that stupid emotion-y bitch you was talking about too?
No,
You
Jerome!
can play at this game, pansy. Oh!
Jerome, no!
Orc, I simply don't like anyone touching my things. Maybe you let Jerome go, and we both leave this fight for another day.
Why?
My anti-poverty suit is ruined. They'll have to fetch a new one.
I ain't going nowhere, pansy. I'm here for you. Ain't nothing personal, Jerome. It's just business. Yeah! You see, you won't be in eternal agony no more. See, Jerome? Always looking on the bright side of things.
With that, Gitslaire closed his claw, crushing
No!
Jerome.
Oh, F in the chat for Jerome.
I will rip you to pieces, and then I'll teach every single one of those pieces a completely new spectrum of pain!
F in the chat for
Chopovsky
Jerome.
lunged forward recklessly with his pain gauntlet. The Warboss easily sidestepped the attack before clobbering the Maestro in the head with his massive fist. The homunculus's neck snapped as his head flopped backwards. His face grinned wickedly.
Were you trying to knock me out just now? Imagine a homunculus that still keeps its brain in its...
Warboss Gitzlaire plowed his fist right into Chopovsky's torso. The Mad Maestro had, of course, moved his brain so that it sat protected within his reinforced ribcage. However, the blow from an orc warboss, whose fist is roughly the size of your torso, is enough to concuss even the most cunningly concealed brain. Chopovsky collapsed in a heap with the force of the blow.
Talk shit, get hit.
The melee between the orcs and Chopovsky's minions slowly died down when the racks and grotesques saw their master had been subdued. The 5 Drukhari that had been skirmishing with Yellowbelly and the lesser orcs saw that their gamble had failed, and they quickly fled the scene. Redbrain and Yellowbelly trotted up behind Warboss Gitzlaire and hauled the unconscious form of the Maestro to his feet. With
2 quick movements, Gitslaya sliced right through the limbs of the homunculus and left him a helpless wreck.
Lovely.
Listen up, you no-face creepy crawlies. If you don't want your boss to get crumped, you're gonna do exactly what I say.
Ah.
What do I say, Redbrain? I'll get the plan. Well, a bird picker ran off with the other pansies, and he made the other half of the plan. But, half a plan is better than no plan.
True.
And I think I can figure out the missing bits. Is you sure? Yeah, boss. Trust me, I was a smart boy.
Oh, God.
Right. Let's do this then. You know, whatever this is.
Oh,
Noman,
my
they call me.
God.
My mother and my father, and hear all about the Warboss's advance out.
Next.
This is quite possibly
Warboss Gitzlaire and the best plan ever.
the stupidest, most humiliating plan I've ever been a part of.
Oh, God.
No, that's not true. I've lived the past 15,000 years in Comorragh. This is the 374th stupidest, most humiliating plan I've ever been a part of.
Oh, shut your yap. You might even get to live by the end if it works.
The maestro's head flopped this way and that on his broken neck as Warboss Gitslaya's heavy gait jostled the homunculus from side to side.
I'm seriously weighing eternal damnation against going through with this ridiculous farce.
There ain't no farting as part of your plan.
He is... I was going to say something, and then I just lost it because of that line. I've been infected with this... Oh, God. So this poor homunculus has been infected completely with the poor, and he had surgery done on him by one of the poor. Poor homunculi.
Leastwise not this plan.
Redbrain smoothed out the cloth that was draped over Gitslaya with the limbless maestro perched on top.
This is never going to work. I'm a limbless torso riding on an orc covered in a bedsheet.
Now. I'm also wearing gloves to hide me green hands. Yeah, he's wearing gloves too.
Oh, my God.
Doesn't matter. No one is going to believe that this is me or that I willingly did this to myself. They're pretty clearly going to suspect something unless they've had 90% of their brain removed.
Yeah, but you made those things.
Redbrain gestured to the hulking grotesques,
Oh, my
who were more or less the
God.
same size as Gutsmangle.
I just tell him you made yourself a body like that.
And why did I lop off all my limbs and break my own neck?
I don't know. Just tell him it's on. Yeah, tell him it's on.
Just tell them it's...
Oh, actually, I'll be damned. That might actually...
And remember, you can mash you to a pulp faster than your no-face gits can crump me. So no funny business.
With all of the orcs, including
Oh my
Redbrain, tucked
God.
away in the scan-proof boxes,
You're not the only
Maestro
one.
Chopovsky's remaining grotesque and rack entourage began hauling all of this unusual baggage
You're not the
to
only one,
edge of
Ronnie.
the bone middens. Once they started getting into the more populated portions of Lower Commorragh, the sight of the broken body of the maestro awkwardly flopping back and forth atop a mound of flesh and muscle covered in a bedsheet began to draw some questioning eyes.
Uh-huh.
It's art, you plebeian troglodytes. If you had a brain in your head, you'd be appreciating this masterpiece.
Most of the gawkers knew well enough to return to their business,
Uh-huh.
purchasing illicit substances, planning intricate betrayals, or making arrangements for fun time sessions with some hapless victims.
Ugh.
However, A few could not tear their eyes away from the bizarre sight.
Archibald, if you would, please.
Archibald the Grotesque broke ranks with the other shambling piles of flesh and suffering, and rushed towards the closest rubbernecker. The unfortunate Drukhari tried to bolt, but the Grotesque was too quick on the draw and fired its liquefier gun right into the back of the hapless victim. The poor Dark Eldar shrieked in pain to the
Okay, so that is legitimately like 3 words that should never go in the same sentence. Okay, it should never go in the same sentence. Poor Dark Eldar. No. Drukhari fashions. Like, they literally have Gitslaire covered with a massive bed sheet, and this thing's just sticking out of the top. It's absolutely glorious. Fun times rhymes with war crimes, yes.
amusement of the onlookers. Archibald quickly scooped up the rapidly melting Gawker and promptly dismembered him.
Lovely.
Anyone else want to be part of this living art piece?
The crowd of lowlifes quickly turned their heads and went about their way. The maestro whispered down to Warboss Gitzlaire.
So, what is your plan, Orc?
Well, you got a ship, right?
Of course I have a ship. How else do you think I collect my specimens?
Then take us to your ship. We's nicking it, and then we's getting out of this weird place.
So, you're just going to steal my ship, and then I suppose you're going to tinker with it until it is nothing but a big, ugly, flying hunk of metal full of orcs.
Probably.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ha!
Ugh. The things I do to avoid becoming one of She Who Thirsts party favors.
As the group moved through Comorragh, and they did so with surprising ease, Chopovsky began devising a plan of his own. He had slowly been working his tooth loose from the inside of his mouth. Normally, he'd be able to pull out the hidden pill by hand. But, circumstances being what they were, slowly working it out with his tongue had been the only option. Finally, he got the thing loose and swallowed. This pill, using arcane Dark Eldar sciences, would allow the maestro to slowly regenerate his severed limbs.
Huh.
Chopovsky also had no intention of
That's one hell of a pill.
allowing the orcs to take his ship. Instead, he would lead them to the vessel of his chief artistic rival,
Lovely.
Demonis Brahms. Well, when life gives you lemons, why not squeeze them into the wounds of your enemies while laughing maniacally? Chopovsky grinned to himself as he concocted his diabolical plan. With any luck, his rival would be humiliated. The maestro would be free. And the orcs, well, who really cared what they did once they were out of his hair?
Right.
But he couldn't let that go. There was a large part of Chopovsky that wasn't about to let Warboss Gitzlaire get away with humiliating him like this and
Just let it go, you prick.
turning him into some kind of comical meat puppet for the orcs. The homunculus schemed away as they drew nearer to the spaceport where Demonis Brahms' ship, the Symphony of Flesh, was docked. As the maestro's plan took shape, Redbrain too was thinking away as well, mostly because there was little else to do in the shipping container.
True.
But he also realized that he would have to come up with the rest of the escape plan himself now that Bone Picker was gone. Could the mind of the 2-week-old Redbrain contend with the millennia of experience that dwelt within the mind of Maestro Pyotr Chopovsky?
Legitimately, 100%, the two main weapons of the orcs are surprise and disbelief.
In the words of Red Brain,
Yeah, it's probably fine. What could go wrong?
Noman do they call me.
Oh my god.
The great
Gitslaya steals the symphony. Let's go.
homunculus Maestro Pyotr Chopovsky marched through the dark city of Commorragh.
I just don't
was
get it.
in a humiliating position, having lost all his limbs and broken his neck, causing his head to flop this way and that while riding on the shoulders of Warboss Gitzlaire, who had defeated and captured him. The Great Orc's idea of disguise was being covered by little more than a bedsheet and pretending to be a grotesque or some other biological horror designed to bear the maestro this way and that. Some of you might wonder,
True dark.
is the
True
maestro
dark.
not in terrible pain? Or shouldn't a broken neck kill him? The answer to the first question is yes. The maestro is in incredible pain.
Lots of angry pug sounds. 1 second. Oh, so the hospitaler got me something. I love pugs. Everybody knows this. She got me this little thing right here. Look. It is a cube pug. It is a loaf pug. I don't know what you guys need to say about that, but it's tiny. It came out of something from Japan. I don't know. Look, it even has little paws. Alright. Yes, he has the wrinkliest brain. Yeah, this orc has come up with more than one plan in 2 weeks. This is impressive.
Pain. More pain than most human beings could withstand without passing out or experiencing some kind of permanent psychological trauma. However, the maestro was a true connoisseur of pain, and while he was more of a sadist, most homunculi also had a masochist streak in them, even if it was only to perfect their
Of course they
methods of
do.
torment. Homunculi were also masters of biological and surgical manipulation. Chopovsky's skeletal structure and spinal cord had been strengthened so that it would not be easily severed. The old homunculus had also swallowed a regenerative pill that had been disguised as one of his teeth, and his body was slowly healing itself. The orcs had managed to ambush the homunculus
Second.
and
What's that? Oh,
You need a drink.
thank you, babe.
It'll be ready when you're done with your stream.
Okay. It's going to be a bit.
That's fine.
Alright.
Okay. Unless you want it now.
Did I get fries?
Yes.
Let me get the
You
fries.
want
That's terrible if...
Okay.
Okay.
his retinue while they were looking for a way to escape the dark city and return to real space. They demanded that Chopovsky take them to his ship, though the maestro was going to do no such thing. However, he knew where his rival ship was docked. Maestro Demonis Brahms' very own Symphony of Flesh.
Lovely. Thank you, Slacker. The Imperium looks at the Geneva Convention and laughs before taking the book and beating somebody to death with it, and then using the weapons forbidden by it. Pick any Primarch, they broke those rules. Pick any Primarch, they not only broke those rules, they tap danced over them completely and totally. Every single Primarch made the worst war crimes conducted in the 20th century look like light work in comparison. Every single one of them did it. Even Vulcan. Thank you, Slacker. I appreciate it, bud.
Chopovsky
I
groaned.
have fries.
The maestro would take some small consolation in the orc seizing his rival ship and humiliating him. Chopovsky was able to turn away the most gawking onlookers by
Mr. Reich says the Geneva checklist.
claiming that his bizarre appearance could be explained away as art.
Mm-hmm.
Keep walking, Philistine, or you'll become part of the display.
By this point, there were actually quite a few cadavers of former gawkers hauled by the entourage as part of this fake art piece the orcs were using as cover. But, slowly but surely, this caused...
Yeah, Jackson's correct. Symphony of Flesh is a relatively subtle name for anything Drakar related. I was expecting something more verbose. You know, more like Geneva toilet paper. Pretty much accurate there, Master Ranger. Pretty much accurate.
Caused the crowds to avoid the procession at all costs. The orcs themselves were safely stowed away in scan-proof transport crates, preparing to be loaded onto their escape ship. Eventually, they arrived at the massive spaceport. As they did so, numerous agents and gang members from various cabals slowly trickled in behind the strange procession. Bone Picker and his lads were among them. Something was happening. Chapovsky was up to something. And whenever someone was up to something in Comorragh, there were always opportunities to take advantage of the situation somehow.
Yep.
Agents slowly and inconspicuously followed after the racks and grotesques.
Oh, we're almost there now.
Good. I'm getting zogging tired of hauling your sad, stumpy pansy meat all over the place.
Oh, boo-hoo! Poor you! You have to carry around the person you dismembered.
Lovely.
Oh, I really wish I had the opportunity to teach you something of true suffering. No, Archibald, I wouldn't trust you to administer lemon juice to a skinned knee, let alone convey the myriad flavors of agony to an idiot orc.
I ain't no idiot.
You're relying on a plan made by an orc that literally sprouted out of the ground 2 weeks ago.
I can't. He's not wrong. Dark Innovator says Geneva Convention at the end of the day enabled threats that are just as capable of worse things. And of course, new threats and cruelties are always being discovered in the Milky Way galaxy. Remember, kids, good times rhymes with war crimes.
Yeah, maybe you got a point. Yeah, but I's a war boss. I's not a think boss.
That is abundantly clear. Look, stop your yammering. We're here.
Several workers at the spaceport approached the parade of racks and grotesques, hauling their unusual luggage around. One of them opened their mouth to speak. Chapovsky cut him off immediately.
Look, I'm in a rush, so let me onto this ship, and I won't have my grotesques turn you inside out before adding you to the meat parade.
Meat parade.
Balked
Lovely.
for a moment, considering their options.
Look, I'll throw in a free face replacement and rejuvenation session so Brahms won't recognize you. Can we hurry this up, please?
The hapless employees hopped too as they began to wonder how exactly they were going to get out of this without pissing off one or more homunculi. They decided that pissing off Maestro Demonis Brahms, who was not immediately going to turn them into fashionable, eternally suffering pieces of furniture, was preferable to upsetting Maestro Chapovsky,
This is
who
true.
was right in front of them, staring them down. The Maestro was quickly given access to the Symphony of Flesh and allowed inside. After he crossed the threshold, the homunculus snapped his own neck back into place so that it no longer flopped from side to side.
Ugh.
His arms and legs were beginning to grow back as well, though they were still little more than finger nubs growing out of the stumps. Once the loading platform of the ship had closed behind them, the orcs began freeing themselves from their shipping containers. Gitslaya set the Maestro to the side and took off his covering.
Alright, Fluffy, have a nice one.
Finally.
No, Hobbit, no. My fandom does not equal the meat parade. It's the war pugs, not the meat parade. That sounds... You know, it actually sounds appropriate for Comorragh. The meat parade, in so many more ways than one. Think about it.
That stupid plan is over.
Good to hear you
Thank you, Hobbit.
recognize your own mental deficiency.
I'll cave in your skull. Then we'll see who has a mental deficiency.
Orcs began picking their way through the ship, pushing random buttons and accidentally activating cruel defense mechanisms that saw quite a few of the orcs fall into vats of acid
or sliced into tiny pieces by plasma beam traps,
Mm-hmm.
or other far more horrific systems installed by Demonis Brahms. But the orcs seemed to be having fun. Gitslaya and Redbrain were occupied, and they moved to the bridge, attempting to figure out exactly how they were going to work this thing. While the orcs were distracted, Chapovsky planned his escape.
Archibald, get over here. Pick me up. Don't get any ideas. You're no Jerome. You are a simple-minded, shambling sack of suffering. I just need you to carry me out of here without damaging me further. And you, Sandra, I need you to stay behind.
Chapovsky gestured to one of the racks, his arms getting a little longer and finally able to grip and manipulate things. Sandra, the rack, had quite a number of strange glowing vials and tubes jutting from her body. Chapovsky's tiny hands gripped the plunger of one of the vials and pressed down on it, causing the foul liquid to spread throughout Sandra's body.
Sandra, you've been a darling, and I appreciate your work. But now it's time for your solo, my dear.
Oh.
There will be a bit of a delay while we escape, but in a little while, you'll begin to swell with a nasty viral infection. I call it the maestro's miasma. You'll fill with some lovely infectious gases, which will eventually
Is it bad that in my head I'm envisioning this homunculi gesturing and pontificating using the tiny baby arms from Deadpool? Is it just me that's thinking that? Is it just me?
discharge when you explode. So get yourself to the life support system and make sure you get all that lovely contagion into the air recycling system and end these orcs.
Meanwhile, outside of the Symphony of Flesh, the Cabal gangs were swinging into action. Word had gotten around that this was Demonis Brahms' vessel. Some backed out, not wanting to get involved in homunculus spats. Others were a bit more eager, or perhaps more desperate to see what profit they could extract from the situation. Bone Picker was among them, and he knew better than the others what was in store. He was determined to come out on top. Noman do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my...
Oh, Sandra! What a peep!
I am hoping that little tidbit, Master Ranger, stays with you the rest of the day, and when you lay down at night, you just envision a homunculi with little baby hands pontificating and telling you that you're one of the poor. The poor!
What an absolute consummate professional. No, I don't only say nice things about my minions when they're about to die. It's a natural thing to feel some emotion when someone makes the noble sacrifice of turning themselves into a biological weapon. Oh, shut up, Archibald. Just get me out of here.
The homunculus and his retinue made their way out of the Symphony of Flesh, the grand flayed skull-class cruiser of Demonis Brahms. The orcs seemed to lose interest in their captives. Like unsupervised children, they were
Alex Smith's like, what's the over-under on the gas being PCP for the orcs?
busy running amok in the Symphony of Flesh, pushing buttons and tinkering with things, occasionally to disastrous effect.
Yeah.
Maestro Chapovsky chalked up this behavior to orcish stupidity. But in reality, everything was going according to Redbrain's plan.
Right.
Unfortunately, there was a point in the plan where it just sort of stopped, and they had now reached that point. Archibald the Grotesque dropped the landing ramp, and the retinue exited the ship. As they did so, they found themselves surrounded by rough-looking Comorragh gangers. Chapovsky recognized a few death racers, witches, and some of the lesser cabals. The maestro was still regrowing his limbs. His severed arms and legs had regrown long enough that he could walk if he tried, but he could only comically toddle about on his stumpy limbs.
Out of my way! I've already had a dreadful day, and I'm in a rush. Move or... Well, I've used up all of my good threats already. I'll do something particularly nasty when I get a chance to come up with it. Oh, you're not going anywhere, maestro.
Bone Picker stepped forward. The ragged Drukhari leveled his blade at Chapovsky.
Lovely.
Oh, you! You're that filthy urchin I nearly killed. Nearly. And that was your mistake.
Chapovsky looked around at the thugs that surrounded him.
Uh-oh.
The wheels of his twisted mind were turning.
Gosh.
No, it's fine, Archibald. Very well. You all clearly outnumber me. I surrender.
All I can see is his little baby hands like doing like this.
The grotesque set Chapovsky down at the feet of Bone Picker. The gaunt Drukhari grinned widely. This was his chance to regain his glory.
Yes, he's mine. I don't think so, vermin. That homunculus belongs to the Bone Splinter Coven. I'm claiming him for the cabal of the Searing Brand. No, he's the property of the Suicide Boys.
Suicide Boys?
Chapovsky only grinned as the gangs quickly fell to infighting. Meanwhile, Sandra the Rack was slowly making her way through the Symphony of Flesh.
She had been infected with the Maestro's miasma and was beginning to swell with infection.
Once she reached the life support unit, she would burst, spreading the lethal pathogen throughout the Symphony of Flesh. Even the orcs' hearty constitution couldn't save them. One whiff of the miasma, and there was no going back.
Oh, no.
Each of the orcs would pop like putrid flesh balloons.
Nasty.
As Sandra neared the life support room, Poodle, the massive attack squig and beloved pet of Warboss Gitzlaire, sniffed the air. There was a funny smell. The mouth on legs followed the strange smell until he rounded a corner and found himself face to face with the ever-bloating body of Sandra. Poodle growled at the strange, stinky thing. Sandra drew her blade, though her body was quickly becoming too swollen to properly defend herself.
Uh-oh.
Her rack blade was designed to cause searing pain at the tiniest scratch. She hoped she could get in a tiny wound on the squig and chase it off. If she wanted to ensure no survivors, she had to make it to the air recycling unit.
She's not.
She awkwardly lunged at the enormous hungry squig. Poodle hopped backwards, avoiding the initial swing, unsure what this strange thing was or what to do about it.
Poodle.
Of course, when the tiny brains of squigs can't figure out the nature of something,
They eat it.
their instinct is simply to eat it. Sandra tried to regain her balance for another strike, but her bloated body kept her from recovering quickly, and Poodle was on her. The large attack squig bounded forward and opened its yawning maw and chomped down on Sandra, swallowing her whole. It wasn't long before the rack slid down the squig's gullet and into his digestive tract. As the acid burned away the flesh of Sandra, the miasma was released. The foul gas began to bloat in Poodle's belly. The poor squig began to swell and swell, making pathetic, pained, whimpering noises as it ran off to Gitslaya for comfort. The big-bellied squig bounded onto the bridge where Gitslaya and Redbrain were figuring out the controls to the Symphony
Not Poodle. Poodle's a good lad.
of Flesh. The bloated beast let out a keening cry that got the war boss's attention.
Oh, what's the matter, Poodle? Did little Timmy fall in the well again? Why's you all fat and weird looking? And why's you so stinky? And why's you keep getting bigger? Zog, it looks like you're about to pop.
Gitslaya picked up the suffering squig to examine it.
Poodle only whimpered in pain.
Just a little gassy.
Poodle the squig let rip a massive fart that was so vile and so nasty that Nurgle himself would have been jealous.
He made Typhus flinch.
Orcs on the bridge, creatures that were accustomed to all manner of unsanitary smells, cried out in surprise as their eyes watered, and yells for someone to open up a window echoed through the symphony of flesh. Poodle let another fart rip, sending up a new chorus of protests. The asthma was an incredibly powerful infectant, but it was meant to be inhaled or introduced to the body by injection or wound. Poodle just swallowed Sandra whole, and the noxious infection went right into his digestive tract.
Oh my
This
god.
gave Poodle a nasty case of the runs and produced some of the most vicious farts the galaxy had ever seen.
Ah, yes. Ah, Poodle. Poodle's a gassy lad.
Would live. Which might not be true for all of the orcs' olfactory senses. As things settled down, Gitslaya and Redbrain prepared to take off as Poodle continued to create terrible smells and horrible messes for the grots to clean up.
Nice.
Outside, the gangs continued to scrap over which one had the right to take Chapovsky captive. As the engines roared to life, there was a cheer that rose from amongst the orcs.
We did it! We did it! Ha! We's gonna get out of this place!
I can only imagine a smell so horrible. The orcs flinch. That's bad.
Right, boss. You now all we've gotta do is find the nearest way out of the webby way thing.
Webby way thing.
Right, let's go. Where's that? I have no
Open a
idea.
window on the spaceship, I know.
Noman do they call me. My mother and
Moving
my father.
right along.
Very much, Noman out.
Hey, Pug.
As the orcs escaped on their stolen pansy cruiser,
Pansy.
and the stink from Poodle's noxious emission began to fade, Warboss Gitzlaire.
This reminds me of that one time with my Tau girlfriend. Oliver, look, just get yourself a Dark Eldar girlfriend, because it's clear that you're a masochist and you like being blown up. And, you know, I prefer that you get everybody be happy before they get virus bombed.
Gitslayer was positively elated.
It's a long way to Armageddon. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to Armageddon, to the biggest fight I know.
Really?
Goodbye to creepy pansies. Farewell, stupid kids. It's a long, long way to Armageddon, but that is where I fit.
Get out of here.
So how long till we get there?
Boss, I'll be telling you, we still have no idea where we're going.
Well, go faster. It'll make being lost take shorter.
Hey, boss, I ain't a Mac. I don't know how to make it go faster.
Is you a smart boy or a smart git? Push the biggest buttons you can find and paint the stupid ship red.
Redbrain gave a smart salute and ran off.
It was a matter of time. It was a matter of time before that joke got done. It was a matter of time. Hey, welcome back, Burb. Old man, I think you're going to have Greenstead visitors according to that song.
To follow the boss's orders. The Symphony of Flesh, normally an elegant, terrifying vessel, was awkwardly lifting off the ground and jerking this way and that. Back on the ground, Maestro Chophovsky watched with eager anticipation.
Hold on a second. I got something in here desperately seeking my attention. 1 second. Hold on. Come here. No. You wanted attention. Now you're going to get it. You wanted attention. You wanted attention. Now you're going to get it. Huh? You wanted attention? Did you want attention? Did you want attention? Did you? Did you? Did you? Did you want attention? Huh? Did you? Huh? Did you want attention? Is that what you wanted? Oh, God. Oh, just... Come on, you turd. Go bother your mama. Why are you bothering me? Bye.
Waiting for his rack, Sandra, to reach her target, and for the symphony of flesh to come crashing out of the sky. But nothing happened. He had not anticipated that his living biological weapon would be eaten by a large squig before reaching the ship's life support systems.
Something must have happened. How disappointing. A rare failure on Sandra's part. That's true, Archibald, that's true. The orcs will almost certainly still be killed, and Demonis Brom's proud vessel will still be dashed to pieces in a hail of fire.
Yeah.
No, Archibald. Hold back a little longer. We're biding our time, you thick-headed imbecile.
All around Maestro Chophovsky, the gangers fought to enforce their right to take the homunculus hostage. Witch fought Death Racer as each one of the lowlives used every dirty trick in the book. Blades flashed in the light, and splinter weapons fired again and again. All the while, Chophovsky simply sat there, his limbs slowly regrowing.
He's doing the best thing he can right
until
now.
he looked like he had the arms and legs of an Eldar child.
Lovely.
His rack and grotesque retinue stood by, waiting for his orders. Meanwhile, Warboss Gitzlaire and his crew were crashing their way through Commorragh, the ship smashing through the knife-like spires of the city. They were starting to garner some attention.
Really?
Other ships began to launch from the spaceport to catch up with the Symphony of Flesh.
Herr Bush, we got Gits on our tail. Then shoot 'em. Use the ship's docker. We don't know how to make the docker work. But, you know, there's a first time for everything. Zog, we don't even know how to do anything on this rig. I don't want excuses. I want dead pansies.
Dead pansies, let's go.
Figure it out. If the pansies start fragging the ship...
Yes! Handle it!
Oh, then we just get into boarding torpedoes, and then we get ourselves a different ship.
What?
I thought you was smart, Red Brain. Why is I coming up with all the ideas? Okay, so, figure out how to fly the thing, shoot the pansy docker, loot a different ship if they zog this ship. Yeah, that makes sense. Right, boys, let's do this.
Once again, through fearless trial and error,
Right.
the orcs continued to rampage across Comorragh, though their pursuers were gaining on them rapidly. Back at the spaceport, Maestro Chophovsky's grin widened as the gangers slowly thinned themselves out. Bone Picker was in the thick of things, his dreams of reclaiming his lost glory. To become an Archon again. His blade moved faster than it had in years. He could taste his victory. Dodged beneath the Witchblade, stabbed the arm of the Kabbalite warrior to make him drop his splinter rifle, fire it into the witch. This homunculus was the key to everything. Bone Picker became a whirlwind of death, dipping in and out of combat, allying with another weaker gang to defeat a stronger one, and then betraying his allies at the right time.
Right.
Soon, he would no longer be Bone Picker. He would be Calistrixus of the Blood Quarter once more. When the red haze of battle faded, the Drukhari scum looked around.
There were only a few scattered Cabalites and witches standing around. The rest were all dead.
All right,
and
Oliver, you have a nice day, bud.
Bonepicker had won. But he turned to see the rictus grin of Maestro Chopovsky looking back at him. A few of his racks died in the crossfire, but his retinue was mostly intact. Archibald the Grotesque loomed over the ambitious Drukhari.
Flew a bit too close to the sun, did we? Oh, those delicate little wings of yours
Icarus reference.
are about to melt clean away.
I don't feel
Bonepicker
bad.
tried to run, but Archibald seized him as Chopovsky administered a powerful anesthesia injected directly into his heart.
Lovely.
I called you that urchin, but I know who you are. Or more appropriately, who you were. Caelus Strixus.
Uh-huh.
300 years ago, you were the talk of the town. You even attended one of my Toccatas of Torment. Though I doubt you remember a thing about it. You were high on at least 8 different narcotics. And even
Nice.
a few that I didn't even recognize.
Ha!
And what depths you fell to. To be nothing. Oh, but now you belong to me. And I will make you so much more.
That's not good.
Some might say you lived a painful existence, full of sorrow and misery. Such unfortunate bad luck. A victim of fate, you might say. But what you've
I believe he was high on narcotics.
suffered through will be as nothing compared to what I have planned. You've been Caelus Trixus. You've been Bone Picker. But when I'm through with you, you will be only Jerome.
Oh, no.
No man do they call me.
No.
My mother and my father and all my comrades.
No.
Out.
What are
The
you...
sim-
What are you yelling about?
You're young because I'm not in where I'm going.
Oh.
Symphony of flesh was careening through Commorragh, smashing through smaller vessels and clipping buildings as the orcs continued to learn the finer points of piloting an extremely sophisticated piece of technology.
Zog, I hate this. If this was a proper orc cruiser, we wouldn't have to try to dodge all these building things. They just plow right through them. Isn't that right, Poodle?
Aw.
We just smash right through the pansies and mash them to pieces.
Yes.
And then we get out of this place, wouldn't we?
Yes.
Boss, we got pansies coming up on us.
I love the fact they call them pansies. It just makes my day.
It looks like they wants to scrap. All right. We need every scrap of cunning if we're gonna outsmart these pansies.
You just want to shoot him, huh, boss?
Shoot everything!
Every weapon system on the Symphony of Flesh roared to life as dark matter blasts, torpedoes, and phantom lances fired in all directions.
Lovely.
The inaccuracy of the Orky weapon discharges mostly created a great deal of collateral damage for Comorragh, rather than actually hitting too many of their Drukhari pursuers. Redbrain was still trying to work out the different ship systems. So, he hit an unfamiliar button, and from out of the viewports, the Symphony of Flesh seemed to become engulfed in a strange kind of shadowy fog. Redbrain scrolled through a number of vid captures around the ship and could see that most of the larger pursuing ships were also cloaked in this strange fog.
Oi, boss, I think I got an idea. I know the idea. We fly and shoot until this wreck is gonna explode. And before it does, we launch the torpedoes and steal a different ship. Yeah, but I don't think we got the orcs for that, boss. Well, we've only got about 300 boys. How much is that? I think it's more than many, but less than lots. Look, we ain't got the boys to fight forever. If you want to get out of here and back to Gazgul, then we gotta do my idea. We don't got a lot of orcs, but I knows what we do got a lot of.
Squigs.
Meanwhile, on board the light cruiser Vex Revenge, Archon Chernobog and his lieutenant Dumazid assessed the situation.
Has the old homunculus finally gone mad?
I doubt it. Even in the deepest madness, homunculi have more grace than a drunken monkey.
My Archon, we have an incoming hail from the vessel.
Put it through. I'm curious to see who had the gall to steal the Symphony of Flesh. I already told you now, I don't know what this button does. Well, how do you find out if it don't I don't know. It doesn't seem to do nothing. Oh wait, look! There's a weird pansy that keeps showing up on the looky screen. What a stupid button. It don't do nothing good. Where is that snack button? Orcs. How did orcs sneak aboard the Symphony of Flesh?
I suppose it's possible that...
I was speaking rhetorically, Dumazid. Fire to disable their
Dumacid. Dumbass.
engines. Let's see what profit there is in bringing down this proud vessel. Wait, what are they doing now?
They're firing torpedoes at us! Shoot them down! Don't let any through!
Single torpedo managed to run the gauntlet of fire and slip through. The crew of Vex Revenge braced for the explosion, but none came.
Ooh.
Just a dull, loud thunk of the torpedo impacting the vessel.
What happened? That is a homunculus ship. There is no way that such sophisticated munition would fail to detonate.
Sir, scans indicate that it's a boarding torpedo.
Uh-oh.
Boarding action? No. I don't want any filthy orcs on my ship. It's only a single torpedo. It can't be that many. Send the Cabalite warriors.
Oh, God.
Destroy them.
As soon as the torpedo struck its target and came to a screeching halt, the hatch opened and hundreds of grots poured out of the torpedo
Grots?
and began scrambling for cover.
Lovely.
Some managed to scurry into the inner workings of the ship, while others were quickly dispatched by splinter fire. Meanwhile, the Symphony of Flesh was seriously damaged. The vicious weapons of the Drukhari shredded through the ancient ship as systems began to fail.
Oh, come on, boss. We gotta get the boys into the tubes.
Tally Ball, y'all are having bad storms down in Jamaica? I'm surprised that there hasn't been a hurricane down there this year. Normally you hear about once or twice a year.
Right,
Hope you stay on, bud.
But why did we shoot a bunch of groats at the pansies? Yeah, they ain't gonna kill them. Ain't no way. Yeah, but I told them to get inside the worky bits of the pansy ship and start ripping stuff up. You know, hopefully they break something important.
Yeah.
Then all the different ships is gonna start acting all funny, and the pansies won't know which cruiser that we slipped into. We could use that cloudy, foggy thing to then sneak away. Then we can get out of here.
Yep.
All right. So, you now know where we is? Look, one part of the plan at a time. Trust the plan.
Trust the plan.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
The orcs were loaded into the boarding torpedoes.
Oh, shit.
Gitslaya and Redbrain were crammed into a torpedo with Poodle and his pack of squigs. Redbrain had to stay close to Gitslaya, or else
Well, Tiny Bolt, you stay safe, alright, bud? Stay safe.
he risked being chomped to pieces by scores of hungry mouths.
Right. Here we come, new cruiser. Hopefully this one'll be less on fire than the last cruiser we nicked.
Oh,
All
Lord.
right. Here we go, boys. Whoa!
And with that, the torpedo launched.
screamed through the air and streaked towards the nearest large cruiser, which looked to be attempting its own boarding action to loot the ship that the orcs had already properly looted for themselves. Downright gittish, if you asked any of the orcs. With a tremendous shock that sent the squigs tumbling everywhere, there was a sound of metal screeching on metal before it came to a stop, and the hatch popped open.
Come on, Poodle. Now it's time for some real fun.
Poodle's going to get the work done.
Noman, did they call him?
Poodle's going to go get that work done. Poodle's a good lad. Poodle's a good little lad, I have to admit. Alright, so 3 episodes left. 3 episodes left. Next one. Here we go.
Listening? Noman out. Maestro Chapovsky, now long-limbed and healed from his injuries, watched as the Symphony of Flesh was slowly picked apart by the swarm of Drukhari vessels. The once grand flagship of Chapovsky's rival, Demonis Brahms, was now in flames.
Poodle's a good boy.
Riddled with every depraved munition that the Dark Eldar could throw at it. The vessel sank until it crashed into one of the jagged towers of High Comorragh below.
Well, it appears that everything is turning up, Chapovsky. Those meddlesome orcs are dead. The Symphony of Flesh? Well, let's say it's less of a symphony now and more of an experimental atonal one-man show.
Ha!
No, I haven't forgotten about you, Jerome. Though I'm hardly happy to have you back. Archibald, by the way, thank you for taking the initiative and sewing Jerome's mouth and eyelids shut. I've been so upset recently, and I've been taking it out on you, and that was not fair. You're right, it has been a long day. We should get back to deviant debaucheries. I have some new inspiration for my next piece. I'm thinking of calling it The Gouging Gavotte. Wait, what are those ships doing?
In the skies over Commorragh, the various Kabbalite ships began to jerk and pitch this way and that, some of them gaining or losing altitude very rapidly. The orcs, following Redbrain's scheme, fired every boarding torpedo on the Symphony of Flesh in all directions, targeting as many of the ships as they could. Most were filled to the brim with Gretchen and squigs.
Lovely.
Many of the torpedoes were shot down before they could reach their targets, but the ones that hit, the Gretchen immediately began to crawl into the various nooks and crannies and ventilation systems in the Drukhari vessels, breaking every single complicated-looking piece of technology they could find. Anti-grav calibrators were destroyed, navigation was shut down, and general havoc was wrought among the fleet. But there were a large number of torpedoes that were launched at one of the smaller ships in particular, the Skinning Blade.
The Skinning
These
Blade.
torpedoes contained Warboss Gitzlaire, Redbrain, Poodle, and all of the rest of the proper orcs. As the missiles slammed into the side of the ship and penetrated deep into its hull, Warboss Gitzlaire tore the hatch off the torpedo as his boys poured out into the Skinning Blade.
To me, boys! Kill 'em all! Yeah, wait! We need one of them to fly us out of here! Keep the pilot alive! Kill 'em almost all!
Almost all.
The great Warboss marched forward using torpedo hatch as a shield and mobile cover for him and his boys. The Kabbalite warriors slipped out from behind cover to take graceful shots at the orc mob with their splinter rifles. Shards ricocheted off the makeshift shield as the orcs pushed forward. Kabbalites used hit-and-run tactics to try to stay clear of the orcs, but the naked orc aggression, and the fact that the orcs were utilizing dangerous Dark Eldar weaponry, which was a lot less satisfying for the orcs to use as they had puny Daka, but it was much more accurate as they had no kickback.
And the thing about it is, it's not loud, so they really don't like it that much.
To throw off the orcs' aim. Numerous orcs were downed by the stealthy lightning strikes, But once the orcs got into close combat, the Cabalites were cut to ribbons. The ship was not an especially large one, and the orcs had the advantage of surprise and, for once, they outnumbered the Drukhari. This
Surprise and disbelief, the most potent weapons of the orc arsenal.
advantage was increased when a number of Cabalites abandoned ship using escape pods, valuing their own lives over the loyalty to the Cabal.
Which is
On
going to
the
go badly
bridge,
for them.
Archon Calathor demanded an explanation.
What in the hells is going on here?
Orcs, my Archon. The ship is under attack by orcs.
Orcs. I thought the old homunculus had just finally lost his mind. How? How could they? Never mind. I'll deal with them myself.
Yeah, you're about to
The
get dealt
Incubi will
with.
come with me. We'll put an end to this nonsense once and for all.
Oh, really?
Calathor marched out to face the orc warboss with his honor guard. The orcs had breached the ship at several points, and squigs were running throughout all the corridors, overwhelming the warriors. Garbog was a young, ambitious orc who sprouted a little after Gitslaya arrived in the Bone Middens. He started whipping the boys into shape. He was a bit on the runty side to be a true knob, but he was ambitious.
Yes.
And he led his mob of boys through the ship, trying to meet up with Gitslaya.
Smash through every door, kill the pansies inside and keep looking.
Yes.
We gotta find the boss.
Archon Calathor rounded the corner and approached the orc mob. The Archon and the Incubi were armed with cruel blades.
Alright, some pansies that want a real scrap. No dodging and hiding. Come on, boys, let's crump these pointy-headed gits.
Yes, do it. They won't be able to.
Garbog charged forward with his boys, waving their scrap choppers wildly.
Yes.
The Archon and his Incubi moved like dancers, elegantly moving with perfect precision through the corridor. Each step, each movement was perfectly efficient. They dodged the wild brute force attacks of the orcs, and with quick, silent strikes, they dispatched each one, neatly slicing through flesh and bone like it was nothing. The robust orc physiology was nothing to the power fields of the Incubi claves. Within seconds, Garbog stood alone, hacking at Calathor with tremendous force. The Archon marveled at the orcs' tenacity and tirelessness. He'd seen so many Monkey despair when they swung their ugly primitive weapons at him and struck nothing but air. It was the despair that appeared on their faces when they realized they were facing an opponent beyond their ken. He savored that look. Sadly, the orc showed no recognition of his own doom or any kind of fear.
I'll answer that after this, Mr. Wright.
Admirable in its own very stupid kind of way.
No.
Calathor grew bored with Garbog, ducked beneath his blow, and stepped up into the orc and with one neat swing separated Garbog's head from his neck, which rolled across the deck.
Is he dead, though?
With no more orcs in the hallway, the Archon pressed
Okay, apparently
onwards.
he's dead.
He would kill every greenskin on his ship, and then likely have to have the whole thing fumigated to get rid of the stench and spores.
Right.
He rounded a corner, and at the end of the hallway was the great Warboss Gitzlaire and his mob.
That one looks fancy. Hey, you! Once we crump your mates, you're flying us out of this Comorragh.
Comorragh!
Or gave a mocking salute to the barbarian warlord.
You are welcome to try, orc. Careful, boss. These pansies look like they's got some flashy gubbins.
I didn't get to be boss by being careful, Redbrain.
You know, maybe if you was more careful, you wouldn't be in Comorragh.
Oh, shut up. Come on then, pansy. By chopper or claw, you're going down.
Enough prattle. My clave thirsts for your blood.
Oh.
The two combatants charged one another. Both the boys and the Incubi hung back. They knew this was going to be a proper boss fight.
Yeah. Ha! I love it.
Noman, do they
All right.
call me. I'm up.
Onwards.
Thank you all very much. Noman out.
Yes, call me Raw.
Yellowbelly slowly made his way back to his old orc hold in the Bone Middens. He and his remaining sneaky boy slipped away from the fight with Chapovsky when Bone Picker betrayed them. Once Gitslaya had his victory, the great orc warboss talked excitedly about returning to Armageddon, as he called it, and all the great fighting that was there waiting for him when he met up with Gazkol, the greatest warboss that ever lived. Yellowbelly decided that this was a good time to slip away and return to the small orc hold in the ruins.
He just wants to go home.
He traveled with Scrabblesnick, one of the other pale orcs from the hold.
But why? Why not go with the big orcs? The boss can crop anything and keep us safe. I don't want to be safe. Gitslayer showed me something. Something I ain't never seen in Commorragh in a long time. He was a proper orc and weren't scared of nothing. If we leave, ain't no one in Commorragh gonna know what proper orcs is supposed to do. And you think you can be a proper orc?
Yellowbelly's fist flew into Scrabblestick's face with a wet crunch as a few teeth clattered to the ground.
I done being a gittish, grotty, rutty orc. The gods made us to kill, and that's so good what we gonna do.
It wasn't long before Yellowbelly had taken over the small orc tribe and began to gather other greenskins under his banner. He took on the name Greenbelly and began a vicious guerrilla war against the denizens of Comorragh. Many leagues away, high above the spires of Comorragh, Gitslaya was still trying to follow Red Brain's plan to escape. At the moment, he was facing one of the pansy bosses standing in his way from nicking his stupid pansy ship. Archon Calathor faced off against Warboss Gitzlaire. He seemed almost serene as he stood, perfectly maintaining his stance. The Archon stared at the offending orc. Despite his mask of serenity...
Have you seen the new poster? Want a hint on the new poster? Sure, go ahead.
Focus and discipline, contempt and bafflement boiled beneath the surface. Who was this orc? Where did he come from? How did he get this far? Seeing orcs on board his ship was like opening a familiar closet door and finding a screeching ape inside. Gitslaya
That's where the evil monkey is hiding.
roared and charged Calathor. Predictable. The wide swiping strikes of the orc were so...
Lock Warden, why? Just no.
predictable. But the Archon also noticed how much faster Gitslayer was compared to orcs of similar size. Windows of attack closed quickly, and Calathor was forced to simply wait for his opportunity. The narrow corridors of the ship also gave the Archon an advantage. From Gitslayer's perspective, he couldn't muck about with this pansy. This Git wasn't looking to put on a show for bloodthirsty onlookers like the other ones. He was fighting to kill. Simple as that. The Warboss tried to use his tremendous size to overpower Calathor, throw him off balance, force a misstep. Something. Calathor seemed to anticipate every movement and slid away from the Warboss, and then made a neat slice with his clave right into Gitslayer's chest. The Warboss roared in anger. This stupid hallway was slowing him down. He lashed out and crashed right through the walls surrounding him, giving himself a bit more room to move. And this little leaping pansy couldn't go for more free shots against him like that. Blood leaked from the gash in Gitslayer's mega armor, but the boss seemed unfazed.
Come on, Git.
Gitslayer prepared to charge again, and Calathor braced for another reckless assault.
The Warboss was a Goth, and by nature he was inclined to use gawky solutions above all others. Go in, smash the Git, be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But he had needed to be murky and cunning all the way to get this far. He needed cunning to beat this speed demon pansy. Calathor anticipated the Warboss's every movement, and then simply took whatever opening Gitslaya gave him. Wait, that was it. Gitslaya knew what he had to do. He charged forward once more, swinging with chopper and claw. But he had a plan.
Oh.
Calathor waited patiently once more, not getting
Is our boy going to be the first orc in history to throw a feint?
into any extended melee with this orc where his size and strength could be used to his advantage. Once again, he waited for his opportunity.
He's going to be the first orc in history to
swung
throw a
his
feint.
chopper, and just as before, struck nothing but air. Calathor saw his opportunity and lunged forward, plunging his blade into the orc's belly. This was it. He was about to slice the orc clean in half when he felt the massive claw of Gitslaya clamp down over his arms and the hilt of his weapon.
That's bad.
There we go. No more jumping and
He
dancing
baited
around
him.
for you.
The Warboss spat out a wad of blood before pulling Calathor forward and stomping his heavy tank-like boots on the Archon's back, flattening him in one brutal movement and ripping his arms free with his claw.
Oh, man.
Right. Yeah, that was a good fight. And look, more pansies with shiny choppers. Kill 'em, boys.
With their leader dead, the Drukhari became more concerned
Well, their leader just got shreked.
with their own survival, and the orcs were filled with the spirit of
Jesus.
war as they rushed forward. The incubi fought to keep the surging orcs at bay, while also attempting to withdraw. But with Gitslayer leading them, the orcs overran the elite soldiers.
Thought he was going
For
to
all
capture
their
him.
fighting prowess, there was little they could do to avoid being overwhelmed, except to maybe take down an orc or two with them.
Yeah.
Soon, the ship was free of pansies. They were either dead or fled. Most of the pods had been launched from the vessel once the Archon had been slain.
Redbrain,
The
where are
pansy
you?
ship.
It's right here, boss. I found this pansy. Seems a bit scrawny, this one.
The smart boy orc dragged what looked to be a Cabalite initiate. The naked ambition that usually filled his eyes was now replaced with fear, and a low cunning, and a
Yeah, he
need
forgot to
survive.
capture him, Ronnie.
Listen, pansy. I'm saying this just once. You get us out of Commorragh, and I won't feed your soul to them demon gits you lot is so scared of.
That's a good
You
arrangement.
fly us to wherever the Zog, the exit is, and we make sure you land safe and sound.
Oh, God.
Trust me, I've got a plan.
True to his word, Redbrain did have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
With the assistance of the last living Cabalite, the orcs were able to pilot the ship in more or less a convincingly pansy-ish way. They were able to make it all the way to the Webway Gate. That's it. This gate will take you to what the Monkey call the Gothic sector.
Ah.
A Gothic sector, eh? I like the sound of that. A whole sector for Goths.
There, I helped you. So, I'll just be heading down to the fighter bay and taking my leave.
Oh no, them pansy fighter bombers is staying with us. Could be useful after some modifications.
Oh, God.
But you promised. You said I could land safe and sound.
Yep.
Yeah, I had Redbrain working on that bit. I told you, trust the plan.
Oh, God.
Moments later, the unfortunate Cabalite was unceremoniously flung from the vessel with little more than a small pack strapped to his back. He pulled the ripcord, praying to every muse he could name to keep alive.
No.
Sure enough, a crude Orky parachute opened
Really?
just before he splattered on the pointed spires and causeways below. He would land safely. Safely being a relative word for an unarmed Cabalite initiate with no cabal in the middle of Comorragh.
Yeah, that's a bad day.
Gitslaya sighed as the pansy vessel approached the gate.
Right, so the Gothic sector. I wonder how close that is to Armageddon.
Not.
Well, sure we'll figure it out.
It's
You know,
not.
trust the plan, right, Red Brain?
Trust the plan.
I think I'm gonna learn something about this galaxy if I was gonna make any more plans. But how complicated could it be?
Yeah. For an orc, not that
Gitslaya
complicated.
was glad he was getting out of this stupid place. Finally. No more sneaking. No more hiding in boxes.
Right?
No more skulking about.
Right.
But how was he going to find Gazkul? How was he going to reach Armageddon? Those questions didn't seem very important to the great war boss.
Why would they be?
As the orc passed through the eerie shining gate, Warboss Gitzlaire had truly escaped from Comorragh.
Nice.
Noman, do they call me?
Okay, there's
My mother
one
and my
more
father
video in this
and all my
playlist.
comrades as well.
So we'll check that out.
Noman out.
We'll check that out. This is the fan animation that you guys were talking about.
This is quite possibly the stupidest, most humiliating plan I've ever been a part of. No, that's not true. I've lived the past 15,000 years in Comorragh. This is the 374th stupidest, most humiliating plan I've ever been a part of. I'm seriously weighing eternal damnation against going through
I love it.
with this ridiculous farce.
There ain't no farting as part of your plan. Leastwise not this plan.
This is never going to work. I'm a limbless torso riding on an orc covered in a...
It's dumber than I pictured in my head. It's actually dumber than I pictured in my head.
bed sheet.
No. I'm also wearing gloves to hide me green hands. Yeah, he's wearing gloves too.
It doesn't matter. No one is going to believe that this is me or that I willingly did this to myself. They're pretty clearly going to suspect something unless they've had 90% of their brain removed.
Yeah, but you made those things. I just tell them you made yourself a body like that.
And why did I lop off all my limbs and break my own neck?
I don't know. Just tell him it's on. Yeah, tell him it's on.
Just tell them it's... Oh,
Yeah, trust the plan.
Trust the plan. Oh my god. This was fun. Well, guys, that was Warboss Gitzlaire in Commorragh. We enjoyed ourselves a bit of pure cinema in this. Masterfully told by Noman. Guys, I don't know what to say about this. I absolutely love it. The fact that it actually worked, it like I said, disbelief and surprise, the two main weapons of any orc. Okay, so you were asking earlier about the Eldar, okay? Alright, so let me scroll up about that real quick. Let me see. Do the Dark Eldar use Wraithbone? If not, what do they use? The Dark Eldar do not use Wraithbone. Wraithbone is Craftworld Eldar, flat out. The Dark Eldar use alloys, adamantiums, things like that. They use a lot of the same metals. It's the same. Aside from the aesthetic of the Dark Eldar couldn't be any more different from the Craftworld Eldar if they tried. The Craftworld Eldar embrace their psychic gifts. The Dark Eldar just completely and totally do not. They keep completely away from that side of themselves. That's why there are no Dark Eldar Psykers. There could be, but they refuse to let themselves use that gift, and they focus purely on the physical. And that's why a Dark Eldar is capable of some crazy, absolutely crazy shit. Yes, Mr. Wright, regular alloys for the Eldar would be insane for us. They would be absolutely insane. They do not use Wraithbone or anything approaching that because Wraithbone is psycho-reactive. You need to have certain things to actually make that work. But Dark, and in particular, you need to be using psychic energy, and they're not going to do that no matter what because they don't want to attract any attention from Slaanesh. Has Bruva Alpha Bufsa ever said if he was going back to TTS? I don't know about that, but I honestly hope that he does. I honestly 100% hope that he does. As far as Comorragh, though, Comorragh is built out of pain, suffering, and lots of lube. It's the most depressing place ever. Full of edgelords that don't know how to stop being so edgy. Yeah, he might years from now. That's what he said. And one of these, I just hope he comes back to it at some point. I hope GW recognizes their mistake and, flagellates themselves in front of his a room and assembles the voice actors and pays them a steady diet of Monster energy drinks and stuff like that. Isn't the reason why the Dark Eldar they don't want to invite Slaanesh? They do, yeah, exactly. They do not want to attract any kind of attention from Slaanesh whatsoever. Okay, guys. Well, we have checked out the entirety of Noman's the Warboss Gitzlaire and Comorragh. I can't be more happy than this. Not if Orc Warboss Greenbelly has anything to say about Commorragh. Yeah. Commorragh is about... Commorragh needs a little bit more color in it. It needs a little bit of green texture. Tomorrow, I am most likely going to be checking out Vox in the Voids. All the gods are dead. And, yeah, it should be a good time. So around the same time tomorrow, it's going to be the last time I'm able to do a Sunday stream for a little bit at that time of day. There might be one later in the day. I do not know yet. I'll have to figure it out as I go. In any case, guys, and thank you for joining me. I hope you guys had fun. Did everybody have fun? X in the chat if you had fun. X in the chat if you guys had fun. Because that's the main thing. I want to make sure, I want you guys to enjoy it. Defy says the Gitslayer wants nothing to do with Space Cleveland. Yeah, he literally did everything he could to escape Space Cleveland. Is Comorragh really Space Cleveland, though? Is it really? Would it be Space Detroit or Space Flint? In any case, guys, you guys have a wonderful day. And